Mate, are you all right just to crack on?
You go for it. Just ask away.
All right, then. Right, folks, welcome back to Brew Time. This week, we've got John Gilbert with us. How you doing, John?
I'm all good, thanks.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much for coming on. This is, for folks listening or watching, this is a slightly weird one in that, don't take it the wrong way, John, but like you're not a known celeb in the motorcycle world. You're not like a big overland traveller. However, we've had quite a few conversations, and you've led one hell of a life so far. And I just thought it'd be a very interesting chat to get you on here. So thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, I've got to say, before we start, my kids bought me for my birthday in December a bloody camera. Dad, go and record your rides. I have got the utmost respect for you lot. What a faff.
It is proper faff, isn't it?
The first time out, spent all day video on my tank bag.
Yeah.
Then I figured out I got that wrong and got it to the right angle. Did something wrong, it went into slow motion after 10 minutes. Oh, what a faff.
Mate, honestly, I've been doing this for, blimey, 14, 15 years now, and I still have these moments when you get home after you've just done a ride or something like that, and you check the footage and like the audio doesn't work, or exactly like you said, the camera angle's screwed up or something's happened. It's just infuriating. Part of the course, though. Right. Do you have a tipple?
Not my normal one, because the time we're starting, if I go on the whiskey now, I will be too bad, too quick, so I'm on wine.
It's like, very civilised. Slange, cheers to your health.
Thanks.
You've got one of these green screen background things going on there, haven't you?
I'm trying it, yeah. Well, you don't want to see what's in the back of my house. I'm still unpacking.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I'm working on my backdrop here in the new office, getting there, but the lighting's... Sorry, I'm a wee bit blown out with some of the lights here, so I need to sort all that out.
Well, likewise,
work in progress.
I've just turned the big lights on.
Got big light on.
Big lights on.
Big lights on. Right, for the folks at home, can I ask you just to give us a quick rundown? We'll go into detail after this anyway, but who are you? What you do? Why are you on here?
I've got no idea. Well, my clan colleagues is the reason I'm on here. They're big mouths. So that's the reason why they put me forward. I didn't. Today, I'm MD of Speedworks Motorsport, which is we run 4 cars in British touring cars and cars abroad in different classes. I'm also father of 2 daughters, 5 beautiful grandkids, which that's my world now. Keen, love my motorbikes, even though I got into it very late. My background started off, I had 10 months in the bank and was bored out of my tree at 16. And then got in the motor trade. And motor trade or associated industries till I was 60.
So how did you get in then? I mean, what took you from leaving school at 16 straight into working in the bank? What were you doing there? Were you like a teller or...
Well,
where did you work?
It was a conversation with my mum when I was coming up to my O-levels, and I'm one of 4 kids, the eldest. Mum was a senior nurse in the health service. My dad, bless him, was a vicar. So they hadn't got a lot of money, and I was going to a fee-paying grammar school. And my mum sat me down. My mum was always the direct talker in the family. My dad was just a very quiet, meek man, unless he was in church. And she said, "Son, if you promise me you'll go back to your work, if you go back to school to do your A-levels, we'll somehow find the money to support you. You can look me in the eye and say you'll work. But you have got a brother, 2 sisters we've got to consider." And she got me nailed on. I hated school.
Yeah.
So I went, "Mum, I can't." I said, "I'll go back and play football, basketball, table tennis, all the sports." I said, "But I ain't going to work. I hate it." I And as it happened, the headmaster made the decision for me anyway.
This week we are supported by Dual Bike Training. Dual Bike Training offers bespoke motorcycle coaching that suits your needs. Based in the Northwest, Dual Bike Training can offer anything from back-to-biking refreshers to full on-road coaching programs built around you. Find Dual Bike Training at dualbiketraining.co.uk. That's Dual, Jewell, biketraining.co.uk, or on X as at Dual Training and Instagram at Dual Bike Training. Neil holds all the top advanced motorcycle certificates from ROSPA, IAM and BMF. He also volunteers for Cheshire Bike Safe. He's a qualified lecturer in engineering, so you're going to be in safe hands. Have a read of his testimonials at the website dualbiketraining.co.uk/testimonials. Ride smoother, faster, sharper. A massive thanks to Dual Bike Training for your support.
Because the only thing he said to me in 5 years, when you got your results, you had to go for an exit interview, which grammar school, normally it's to welcome you back to do A-levels because they want your money. And all he ever said to me, I'll never forget it, he looked at me and went, Gilbert, wouldn't advise coming back in the sixth form, okay?
Really?
So then it was get a job. I wanted to join the police at the time, but I had glasses. In those days, you couldn't. And the school had, to be fair, had connections with the bank. Mm-hmm. So I scraped in with 4 dodgy O-levels, got up to grade 2 cashier. And being young, enthusiastic, I wanted to get on. That's grade 3, grade 4, where does it go? And I remember going for my interview with the HR director after 7 or 8 months. So, of course, first question out of my mouth is, what's next? How do I get to be a grade 3? And they had this chart ready, which in those days it was dead man's shoes. And he said, look, the regional manager's 53, so he's not retiring until he's 60. And the younger people, he said, so basically the way it works is when you're 23 and not before, you will be considered for promotion. So I go, doesn't matter how hard I work. No, Johnny doesn't. I said, but they're idiot. Half of them are sat on their house. He said, John, we know. But the way it works, it's dead man's shoes. We don't fire people in the bank. And I walked on to him that night and said, I'm out of here. And as she said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't know. And I had a mad passion for cars. By then, I was still collecting magazines, anything with a motor, and I was interested in. I had a friend of the family that was in the motor trade. And she said, why don't you give Peter a ring? So I gave Peter a ring. He was a truck sales manager for a company called H&J Quick. And he got me an interview with the group HR director. And because I worked in a bank, they thought I could sell finance. It was a new concept in the UK at the time called a business manager, literally just coming over from the States.
When was this, John? Was this about 1922, 23, something like that?
Yeah, thank you, cheeky bastard. 1977.
I was 1, right.
Yeah, all right, I'm 17.
We are also supported by Ultimate Add-ons. Old Faithful been with me from the very start. Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles. With a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure and easily accessible, the Ultimate Add-ons product range is ideal for any rider from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on an expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? Ultimate Add-ons waterproof, shockproof and dustproof tough cases are available for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Add-ons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding this winter with Ultimate Add-ons. It's all about the journey. Now, if you head to their website, ultimateaddons.com, use the code TeapotOne10, so that's TeapotOne, TeapotOne, with the number 10 at the end, that'll get you 10% off. A big shout out to Ultimate Add-ons for their continued support.
So I started at Quick's trainee business manager. They promised me my own branch, didn't deliver it, ended up moving after 10 months, and just loved it because it was results based. If you got results, you got promoted. Nothing to do with your qualifications. Could you do the job? And I was very lucky, had a bit of a talent for it. and went up, general sales manager, general sales manager. My big goal and my biggest disappointment in life, I wanted to run a dealership with a top man. And that from the age of 18 was my focus. I mean, total focus. And it was one of the worst days of my life when I got the job, because the day after felt exactly the same as the day before.
Ah, right. Interesting.
And it took me a while to learn why I struggled. I mean, I loved the job, and I was a workaholic, 6 half days a week. I just get results, you'll get the big job. And I remember driving up to Alnwick, the group I worked at the time, Jennings, got the job, got the big car, good money, came back, and I walked into work the day after, and it's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I for 2 years, I struggled because I hadn't got my next goal. I didn't know what was next. I'd done it.
You obviously, I mean, in the short time we've known each other, you've always struck me as somebody that you strive for excellence. Like, where's the best? Whatever I'm doing, what's the best level? I need to go for that. Have you always been like that?
It's not so much the best. It's the one thing I learned through that exercise. For those from the age of 18, I was laser focused. How do I get the next job? How do I move up? And that drove me. So you have to get results. So it's how do we do it better? How do we get the team to perform better? It took me a couple of years after that. I really did struggle. I tried going to start dealerships because I thought that'd be a challenge, and it wasn't, because it's like once you know the levers to pull in a certain job, it gets easier. So it ceased to become a challenge, and I get bored very quickly, very bored. So I have to set new goals. But it took me a couple of years to discover that that's what I was struggling with. I hadn't got a clear path where I was going. And once I get a path, I have to, once I've done something and worked it out, let's go and do something else.
Okay.
And that's what's driven me. So it wasn't ego driven. I have to be the best. It was, that comes now. If you're going to progress, you've got to do it well. I want to win. Now that's the core of me. I hate losing.
Right. Gotcha. Have you always been like that then? Like right back to school days?
Yeah. Football, basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got to win.
So
even now, the grandkids are learning. You want to play me at Monopoly? There's no favours.
So why do you think that you weren't focused on like academia then at school? If you're that way inclined, how come that strive for, sorry, go on.
I can tell you what, I've got and it is a challenge, it's got me in a lot of trouble. If you ask me to do something or want me to learn something, at some point I'm going to go, why? Why are we doing that?
Oh, this is me. This is me. I need that. Yeah.
If you can tell me, I'm all in.
Yeah.
So
if it makes sense, yeah.
After I left school, I went and had to do lots of training to be a business manager, sales manager. Loved it, and came out probably very close to the top in everything I did, because I understood the why. Somebody could say, you need this because of that. At school, the stock line was, it's in the syllabus.
Yeah.
And I remember 2 examples. I struggle with languages. I don't have any. I'm not a natural. And this is at the age of 13, doing French. And they're trying to teach us how to write it. So my bloody hand goes up, and it's like, can you explain why you're not getting us to teach us how to speak it? Because I'm far more likely to go on holiday to France than I am when I want to write an essay or a letter. And all they got back was, well, that's the syllabus. We agree with you, but it's not, no. And I didn't go to another French lesson. I just switched off.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was very disruptive. Then they told me not to tell me. I've just had that streaking in me. It's the same with the bank. They started me off in my banking exams. Now I'm thinking, great, I learned about money, interest, mortgages, security, foreign, whatever it might be, something to do. I got there and it's English, lit and geography. And it's time to go to the pub. They couldn't tell me the why.
Yeah. And we are also supported this week by the Influencer Store. Now, the Influencer Store helps you build your brand big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design, and there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. Now, if you head to TeapotOne.com, you have a look at any of the merch available over there. That is all handled by Roger and Charlotte and the team over at the Influencer Store. A massive thanks to them for their ongoing support. I'm very much like that, but I wasn't like that at school. At school, I was really academic. You know, I knuckled down and I studied and I worked hard, but I had a focus. You know, I wanted to go to uni. I was going to do engineering. That's what I was going to do. And I just threw everything I had at rugby and at school. But then I can't remember when it was. I think it was pretty much as I joined the Old Bill. So like my mid-20s, I just remember having this, exactly what you just said. Like whenever anyone told me to do something, in my head, I'm just like, well, why? That doesn't make sense. Why are we doing it this way? That doesn't make sense. Yeah. And that's just got, I would say, worse as I've got older, to the point now where I don't even know if I could work for somebody anymore, you know, because it's just like, if something doesn't make sense to me, I'm not, you're not getting anything out of me now. Like, yeah, why is that? Where does that come from? Because it wasn't inherent in me as a youngster.
Some of it I know I get from my mum. Because my mum's very like that. She doesn't take it, well, God rest her, so she's got Alzheimer's now, but, you know, at the peak, you know, she didn't take any prisoners. You know, she was the straight talking one of the family. So I suppose I grew up in that common sense environment. You know, if there's a reason for doing something, let's do it. And if not,
Aye.
I think I would have done a lot better now at school with the current system, perhaps, where it's more, because I hated exams as well. But after school, I excelled. I mean, you know, one of the standards I set myself when I own my own business is never to go in a meeting not being the best informed. In that meeting, nobody in my industry could pull the wool over my eyes. But that took a lot of work and learning, sitting in every department and learning my trade. But that was the standard I set myself. So then, you know, I'd spend hours looking at numbers and spreadsheets and, you know, underwriting and all the rest of it. But there was a reason for it. So it wasn't a lack of ability. I just couldn't. And big companies, I remember, you know, I was working at a dealership in Rochdale and we got sold out, taken over by a group called Henleys at the time, which there may nobody on this podcast old enough to remember them. And the regional sales director came to see us. We were a big dealership in Ford standards, and we had a big contract with the Transport and General Workers Union, which at the time controlled all the Ford plants. These are in the days where there were strikes every 2 minutes. But we got the contract to supply their cars. It was worth 1,000, 1,500 cars a year.
Wow.
And this regional director comes in. They're about to go on strike again, which was par for the course. And he walks in, he said, right, all the cars you've got earmarked for the fleets, sell them retail. You're not to deliver them. And I went, no. I'm telling you, I said, I don't care. Now, he's big boss. And I went, yeah, I'm not doing it. Well, you've got to do it. I said, I don't care. I'm not doing it. If you want to do it, you ring them. Because it'll screw us, because they've got long memories. You don't put one over on the Transport and General Workers Union. I've just done a hand signal, so my camera's zoomed out.
I wondered why you shot off into the distance all of a sudden.
I'll put it back in a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
And I went to war with the guy, and I would not back down. I ended up 3 months later, I moved. I just couldn't work with him. Because it wasn't right. And I was proved right, but it was all power play with him.
Yeah. So, that first move into the rewinding a wee bit, that first move into the motoring industry, what sort of stuff were you doing then at that stage?
So I started off literally arranging finance for customers. And in those days, it was a lot different to it is now. When I first started, there was a law in place saying you had to put down 50% deposit.
Blimey.
As a retail customer, balance over 2 years.
Gee whiz.
Bear in mind, Ford at those stages, we held 40% of the UK market because the main sales were fleet. Sales, easy. We didn't have to sell. We just had to get bulk orders because we were getting good margin out of it. And they were called the control orders. And then I think it must have been 78 when we had a change of government. I think it'd be around then. They changed it to allow, they dropped the deposit to 20% on businesses first and balance payable over 4 years.
Right, this one's for you lot. Everyone that's watching, everyone that's listening, you're all helping to support the podcast, and I can't thank you enough. Every time that you like it, every time that you listen to it, download it, watch it, every time you give it a thumbs up, when you subscribe or follow the podcast on any platform that you happen to be consuming it on, every time you tell someone about it and they then go and do it, it all helps massively. And it's you guys that have helped push Brew Time up there to the top 5% of podcasts globally. My mind is blown. Thank you very much.
Now, I don't know why one day I'm reading the law and it didn't say in the paperwork who had to pay the deposit. It said in the law that the customer had to make the payments, whoever was on the finance document had to make the payments, but it didn't specify legally who had to pay the deposit. And we had a finance deal at the time with a company called Ford Credit, where if I hit my targets for the year, every pound we'd earned in commission, we get a 40p in the pound bonus. So my head went, now a pound's worth £1.40. So I to this day, I don't know where this came from. So if I use what the profit in the car to pay the deposit, get the customers on finance, bear in mind there've been 50% deposit balance over 2 years, I can make the cars look very cheap and we can earn a fortune. So I rang the branch manager for credit, said, I've checked the law, can you check it at your legal department? If I pay the deposit on behalf of the customer, can you stop me? He went, no, I can't. I went live, first person ever in the UK to do it, drive any Ford away for 200 quid down.
Jeez. How did you, I mean, to be honest, my mind's still foggy with you just explaining it, but how did you think of that?
I don't know. I was reading it one day. I was playing around. I was good at playing around with numbers and working out the commissions and all the rest of it. And it just dawned on me, the way the Ford deal's written, a pound is worth £1.40 because I get a 40p in the pound bonus at the end of the year. And I went to see the MD and I showed him my workings and he said, you're onto something. So I got a spreadsheet because the time the computers were Apple Mac 2Es with big floppy disks.
Yeah.
And did it all by hand. Every car in the Ford range, check my numbers, check my calculations. And basically we'd lose 100 quid selling the car by the time we'd pay the deposit. But I was getting finance commissions of 1,200, 1,300 quid. And then 40p in the pound. And a volume bonus. So I literally put it in the macro news and the phone didn't stop ringing because this had never been, they'd gone from 50% deposit to me going 200 quid driving new Ford away.
Yeah.
And then 4 months later, oh my God, I hit the Holy Grail. They applied the same rules to the private customer. So literally, by this stage, I convinced the boss.
Oh, because that was just fleet. That was just fleet before.
Sorry.
Right. Got you.
So all of a sudden, I can do it to the general public. So I rang the branch manager for credit. He said, I know why you've wrong. He said, I can't stop you. I don't like it, but I can't stop you. So front page, the Manchester Evening News, any Ford, 200 quid. And we changed how we sold cars. By this stage, I've evolved to the big old green printouts you used to get.
Mm-hmm.
Massive computer ones. Again, most people won't remember them. They were about
on the old like dot matrix printer things.
Yeah, dot matrix printer printed on.
Yeah, I remember them.
Me and my brother wrote a program so I could put in the list price of the car and it would work it all out down to how much a week over 3 or 4 years and every extra. And customers used to come in and we go, have you heard about our offer? Give us 200 quid. And how much can you afford a week? Oh, 25 quid. Pick a car. Wrote down the spreadsheet. And it was that.
And you were the first ones to do that in the UK?
First one.
Wow.
I blew. I had a visit from the managing director of Ford Credit at the time because they couldn't understand my figures because I maximised everything. I still got a trophy for him somewhere. Model T Ford he gave me. It was just one of those freak things. And I had an MD that backed me. He allowed me to change the way we sold cars because he could see the money in it. But the company got the payback. The finance earnings my first year were 30 grand. The third year, over 500,000.
Jeez.
Back
when was this?
In early 80s.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, by the time I finished, I was doing it on trucks, commercial vehicles, ambulances.
Yeah. And that just brought finance into the whole industry then, from then on?
The whole industry was doing it, but because of that, we had a unique deal with Ford Credit. What made it work is the 40p in the pound.
Yeah.
That because of the bonus. Without it, it would have been too tight. And that stayed. That kept working for us until they didn't figure out how to stop me. Until Ford stopped me by bringing in low rate finance.
Right.
About 6 or 7 years later, they brought in 3.9% APR, and that's killed it.
So, what did you move to from that then?
I stayed in the trade, and then again went to different dealerships. Tried to get the buzz back when I got to running a dealership. Tried a new start dealership. Tried working for a group, and then somebody asked me to go and talk to a guy from a company called Abraxas, Alex McLean it was called. And they had a very sophisticated piece of F&I software. So because of my background, I was familiar with it. And Alex said, I've got this new concept I want to launch, but I'm too busy with the software. Gap insurance. And I went, what the hell's gap insurance? And at the time, it didn't exist in the UK. It was in the States. And basically, an American insurer wanted to expand, and they'd gone, well, we either go to Australia or England because they can speak English. We can't go to Europe because we can't talk to them. Lazy Americans. And they thought they could bring their model over to the UK. So I sat down, looked at it, and I thought, well, this sounds like a challenge. So I got given the car, and when I started walking into dealerships saying, got this new concept, customer's car gets written off. Instead of them getting the insurance value, we'll pay them back to their invoice price. And it took off. And
again,
just door knocked. Well, it was also we developed a script which is a bit naughty, because how you sell it. One dealership I had to come up with a 60-second sales track, which say to the customer, in 3 years' time, you write your car off. What do you think it'd be worth? Have you ever heard a customer give a good answer to that? Because they perceive the insurance company is going to rip them off.
Yeah.
So if I could show you a way for 200 quid to make sure instead of getting the 9 grand you've just said, you can get 25 grand, which is what you're going to pay for this car today. How do you feel about that? Who's going to say no? Oh, and by the way,
I've bought gap insurance myself.
If we put it on finance, it's going to be 3 quid a month, 5 quid a month.
Yeah.
And the dealerships loved it. They made a lot of money out of it. It does do a good job, but only to 5% of the customers that buy it, because that's the write-off rate.
See, I was recommended to take gap insurance by the sale. Obviously, they're going to. But the reason they recommended it for me was that I bought a bike new, obviously, on finance, but I did high miles, like even back in the Gixxer. Well, on my Gixxer days, I was doing 30, 40,000 mile a year. So generally, I was changing my bike probably every year, certainly every 2 years.
Yeah.
And he said to me, you're a classic case of this, in that in a year's time, your 10 grand Gixxer was 10 grand brand new then. Well, in a year's time, it's going to have 30, 40,000 miles on it. He said, book price, it's going to be nothing. So if you write that bike off, you're not going to get anything for it. So that they recommended gap insurance for me, and I've just always taken it.
It's one of those, you're going to be written off. So it's going to be written off through theft or accident. And roughly, I don't know what the number is on bikes. I know what it is on cars. It's between 2 and 5% depending on the year. So that's who's going to claim on it. But when you claim on it, are you glad you've got it? So, if you live in a high theft area, which I guess you suppose you do on the South Coast, stuff getting nicked and going over to the channel.
Yeah, I mean,
it's worth it. I'd shop around for the price, though, because the motor trade are abusive with the margins to take at times. They're too greedy.
Right.
You wouldn't. When we first started selling that product, the cost to the dealers was only 100 quid, or 1% of the invoice price, and they were knocking it out for 3 and 4%. Having said that, I have underwritten Rolls Royces, Bentleys, Ferraris, and at full payout. And that,
jeez, really?
That's tweaky bum. That's tweaky bum when your Bentley's been nicked and he's had it 2 years, and you get the insurance valuation on that. That's a big payout.
Yeah. Wowza.
Yeah, that was for the Sittner Group, Roger Penske.
Who's that?
Roger Penske. You've never heard the captain in IndyCar?
The captain? No.
He runs one of the most successful IndyCar teams ever, and NASCAR.
Indy, right? Sorry.
But
right.
Runs one of the biggest dealer group in the UK and in the States.
Go on then. So that takes us into motorsport. How'd you get into motorsport then?
Alcohol. Basically, I started my own company in 2003, and I've been mad about cars all my life. And I thought, sod this. And I bought an Elise 111S in Kermit Green. And track days were just starting to gather pace. And I thought, I fancy a bit of this. I wonder what it's like. And those days, you're having to slow down a bit on the road. Up to that point, I'd just driven like an absolute bell end on the roads. I treated them like a racetrack. I remember booking it with a company called Booker Track at Elvington Airfield. My logic was there's nothing to hit an airfield. So the first one, if I get it wrong, I should be fairly safe. Well, I loved it. Spun a couple of times, got to know a guy who became a good friend, Johnny, who ran it. And I said, where else do you go? He said, well, we do all the racetracks. So we do Donington, Oulton Park. So all of a sudden, I'm going to racetrack. So next thing, do Donington. And this went on for 3 or 4 years. Then Johnny rang me one day and said, we're doing a trip to Spa, the F1 circuit.
Yeah.
Now, I was a massive F1 fan, Mansell, Prost, mainly Mansell. My poor kids, my poor daughters grew up every Sunday, didn't matter, we're watching the F1 because there was no recording. Well, you could do it on videotape, but and I can take my car to Spa. He went, yeah. In fact, and it was very much like the Clan. He'd set up for his regular customers, I'm going to book a big accommodation, come and stay with us. So it became not only going on the tracks, but a social thing as well. And we all became very good friends.
Actually, John, I better clarify something. When John says clan, he means my clan on Patreon. Yeah. just for those not in the know, John's a member of the clan, not that clan.
No, not that clan. And I remember the first time I went, I had a 255 Exige Lotus Cup car, it was called. So it had no trim in it, roll cage. And I drove it out to Spa in one hit. That wasn't so bad because the weather wasn't too hot. Did a couple of days, loved it. Absolutely loved the chance to drive that track, my favourite track ever. And on the way back, it was hot and there was traffic jams. And I remember getting back and ringing Johnny and saying, if you ever want to see me in my car again outside the UK, find a way of getting it there without me in it. And he started a transporter business on the back of it.
Really?
Yeah. For going to track days, we ended up going all over Europe. I've done Portugal, I've done Spain. I mean, like a 4 or 5 day break. Like-minded people. In fact, so what happens then is you start to buy faster cars. So then I ended up with a V6. And then one night got pissed. And like old blokes, I wonder what it'd be like to race.
Can't be that hard.
And a good mate of mine says, well, what do you think? Now, my logic was, I'm too old to take on the young kids. But there was something about the magic of a 24-hour race that gripped me. The thought of putting a team together and doing a 24-hour race.
Yeah.
And there's a thing called the Fun Cup, which is it's a space frame chassis with a Golf GTI engine in the back. But they all look like Beetles. They're not. It's 2 pieces of fiberglass, but they look like Beetles, why they call it the Fun Cup. And every year at Spa, there's between 100 and 130 identical cars. I mean, identical. Hooning around the track for 25 hours.
Jeez.
And I thought, that sounds like something I could do. And then I found out there's a UK series that does, at the time, 3, 4, and 6 hour races. And I literally just buggered off and bought one. And went on a massive learning curve, how to get ripped off.
Was it really?
Oh, I tell you something. It's like any industry. So I buy this car, and it's a guy called Terry Martindale, and he run 4 or 5 cars in the series. He said, "Look, I'm only running 3 cars next year. Don't worry, John. I'll sort it out for you. Be prepped to be all ready to go. Go for it." I thought, great. Bought it. Booked a track. Booked a test at Alton. Found a team to run it. Get to the first race, or 2 things. I decided we needed an expert in the car to teach me and Steve how to drive. So he had a mate that had raced at the junior level who was the expert. So he comes along and he brings his suspension guru. Because apparently I need a suspension guru. Mm-hmm. And this guy's plugging wires into the car on the suspension. I'm like, no, this is great. This is what motorsport's all about. And we got to the first round at Snetterton. We get to the straight and everybody's disappearing. And even I'm thinking, we're not that bad. This is a straight line. Even I can press the pedal all the way to the floor.
Yeah.
And it turned out, welcome to motorsport, the guy that sold us had turned the engine down.
What, so that you wouldn't win?
But he's competing against us. So I'm missing 30 horsepower.
Down there for dancing.
So that's round 1. Round 2 got that fixed. And then we got to Rockingham. And this thing wouldn't go around corners. And you turn on the infield at Nockingham, put your foot on the accelerator, the car would just skip across the road. The front was lock solid suspension. And I thought, well, is it me? Is it, am I not driving it right? Came in, went on a team. I said, look, this is what I'm feeling. Go out, you drive it. Steve came in and said exactly the same thing. And then my number 1 mechanic tapped me on the shoulder and said, John, can I have a word? I went, yeah, of course you can. He said, you know that pillock you've got doing the suspension? I said 2 things. He's wandering up and down the pit lanes, telling everybody he's muddied our car, trying to get business. And secondly, you're not allowed to adjust the dampers. It's not an adjuster, they're closed off. And what he'd done, he drilled holes in the top of them and changed the oil. Put far thicker oil in, they dispersed all the seams, they weren't moving. There was no movement.
So they're rigid now, yeah.
But worse than that, he's gone and told everybody in the pit lane trying to get more business. So if it had worked, I'd have got kicked out anyway. So at that point, he and I had a chat. Take your equipment, take your wires and do one. It cost me $2,000 for the replacements. So it was a steep learning curve. And that just led to a year of, I didn't enjoy the first year. Yes, there was the thrill of driving, and it is different. And then I suppose I got in real trouble. I went to Christmas party, the track day company, book a track. Again, fairly inebriated. And Christian, who I now run Speedworks with, was there. Now, he's an ex-Jaguar Works driver. He knows his shit. So he says to me, are you enjoying it? I said, I'm not. He said, why not? I said, I know I'm being lied to, but I don't know what good looks like. So I'm getting all this advice, and I haven't got the knowledge to filter who's selling me a pack of lies.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
And who's telling me the truth. I don't know. I don't know how to set a car up. So everybody's an expert all of a sudden, but I know most of it, 90% of it is a crock of shit. And I looked at him, I buried him, ex-Jaguar Works driver, running his own team, and I said, you wouldn't do me a favour, Christian, because we'd become mates over an incident, which I'll tell you about if you want, where I had a big crash. And he said, yeah, of course I will. And this guy is very well known in the industry. I went, really? Oh, thanks, mate. Thanks. So a few more drinks, and I thought, well, if you don't ask, you don't get. How do you fancy racing it with me? And I never thought, for a million years, he'd say yes. He's driven at a far higher level. He went, yeah, let's do it. We'll have a bit of fun. We then get the law of unintended consequences. We turn up at Alton Park. He set the car up. And in Fun Cup, you draw your position on the grid out of a hat. It's nothing to do with qualifying time. Yeah. Makes it fun. Well, you're doing a 3 or 6 hour race. So there's plenty of time to get, to the front if you're good. Now, up to that point, I think I'd had a top 10. And I remember it, I'm stood in my overalls, Christian starting, with drawn something like 8th or 9th. And just before he goes to the grid, where he's on the grid, my phone lights up with all my mates going, how are you feeling about getting in the car in first? I went, what? Well, Christian's going to bring that car in first place.
No hiding now, John. No hiding now.
So the pit crew are laughing, and all of a sudden it dawned on me what I'd done. Yeah. And sure enough, he brought it in first place, and guess who spun it on the first lap?
Yeah. Now there's an expectation now. Yeah.
But we went on, had some great times, did the 25-hour race, got trophies, and then it was through Christian. He's a bugger. He starts going on, do you not fancy racing a proper car? I'm quite happy doing I've got me 25 hours. I'm working hard. I'm doing before. Yeah, but and his team, Speedworks, had just won their class in the Dubai 24-hour race in a Ginetta. And he goes, do you not fancy a ride in the Jet? I said, no. I call them plastic pigs because they're fiberglass. I said, I'm not getting a plastic pig. He starts sending me photographs of Aston Martins.
And what did you have before the Elise? Was it the Elise that you were driving?
What's happened now in the intervening years is I've got an Aston Martin road car.
Bloody hell, right? Oh, okay, wow. Right.
So he knew this. So he's sending me pictures of Aston Martin race cars, and I'm going, nah, I mean, I've looked. You can look up the history of race cars like any car. This has had a crash here. It's done that many miles. And he kept doing it. No pressure on me, just emails. And we're still racing. Well, not racing me. He's had a massive accident by then. But we're still seeing each other. I'm going to touring car meetings and all the rest of it. And then he sent me a picture of done 600 kilometres, white Aston GT4 that had every extra pro drive could put on it. Everything. Endurance tanks, air jacks, like a Christmas tree. 170 grand. Texting back, no, I'm not spending that. Okay. Just thought I'd see. And then we were at the Silverstone Classic together that year. It was in the August, early September. Just gone to watch and have a few beers. And he says, you know that car I showed you? I went, yeah. This has been reduced to 90.
Bloody hell, 80 grand off.
And it's 5 miles up the road. How do you fancy we go and have a look tomorrow morning? I walk in, there's this beautiful white, brand new Aston Martin. The guy had bought it, taken it out to Sepang or somewhere, done one track day on it and damaged the front wishbone. Decided it wasn't for him. Sent it back to the UK to sell. Well, so hooked me, yeah, all right. So I drove it in one half day test at Donington. I'd never driven on slicks, and we put it on a boat to Dubai. The first time I drove it in anger was in qualifying in Dubai.
Good God! Wow, you're moving in some obviously very salubrious circles. Basically, John, I'm saying you've made a bit of coin from the days of joining the motor trade to now going to Dubai to race an Aston Martin. What sort of timescales are we looking at?
The big change was twofold. I'd always been very lucky. The motor trade, if you get results, you get paid well. Not to do that kind of stuff. Two things changed that. I eventually moved to what they call the dark side, became a product supplier. I thought I'd try something new. So based on my gap experience, I went to work for two brothers who owned a warranty company. Fairly new start, but the family history was for years in warranty. And they didn't understand the gap insurance and other credit insurance and other insurance. They understood warranty very well. But if you're going to be a provider to the motor trade by then, you needed to have lots of different products. And they didn't understand them. So one of the brothers approached me and said, look, John, will you come and run it for us? Run that side of the business. And I said, yeah, all right, but I want a percentage. That side of the business, if I grow it, I want a percentage. Because it doesn't exist today. And they said, yes. And then just a stroke of luck, and to this day, I don't really understand it. Don rang me one night and said, I've just had a call from the head of merger and acquisitions at the RAC. Would we like to tender for their warranty business? And I went, you're taking the piss. The RAC at the time was owned by Lex. And the three letters alone, those three letters, I need to stop putting my hand up, my camera keeps moving.
Zooming out again.
Were valued at 650 million.
Million?
Yeah, 650 million. Not the business, just the three letters. And I said to Don, we can't afford it.
What three letters? You lost me. What three letters?
Lex. You know RAC.
Oh, right. Okay.
The orange
650 million. Yeah. Wow.
That's what the brand was valued, not the businesses, the brand.
Yeah.
And they're asking us to tender to buy their warranty company, which was in a mess. They wanted to get rid of it. And I said, look, we're going to be up against every big insurer in the country is going to want to get their hands on that brand. You know, if you can put RAC gap insurance, RAC warranty on something, it's credible overnight. And Don says, well, they want us to tender. And he says, John, I've never done a tender. I don't know how to do one. I said, oh, so you rung me because you want me to write it? And he said, can you? And it was, I remember it, first week in December, 3rd of December I got it, had to be in that week. And you had to agree to do the deal by the end of December. And I just sat at home for a day and a half and wrote it. Worked out how to pay them a royalty because we hadn't got big cash to pay them up front. Cut a long story short, we sent it in. I thought they'd just tell us to start off. And we get a phone call from a guy called Abu Shafi, became a good friend. John, I want to come and see you. I said, why? I said, we can't match the money that these big insurers say. I know, but I hate them. They won't look after my brand. They don't know what they're talking about. And yes, they'll give me lots of millions up front, but I need to protect the brand. I need experts. I want to come and talk to you. I said, look, by all means, but what I put in that document is roughly what we can afford. I said, we can tweak it a bit, but if you're coming up expecting to get 5, 6, 7, 1 million, it ain't going to happen. You know, we haven't got it. John, I understand. This shows how naive I was. I'd never done a big deal like this before. And now they're the two brothers. So comes the Friday afternoon, I'll never forget it. we're based in Sheffield. They've flown into Leeds. And these 2 minibuses arrive. And there's me and the 2 brothers. I haven't got a lawyer and accountant with me. I thought they were coming for a chat. And all these suits poured out of these 2 vans. And fortunately, we had a massive training room with a massively long table in. So they're all introduced. I couldn't remember the names. You know, they're from bollocks, bollocks, and bollocks accountants, and bollocks, bollocks, and bollocks auditors, and bollocks lawyers from London, because Blex was a PLC. So they're all sat down, and Abu sat right at the bottom end. So I thought, well, I don't know what happens next. So because I'd written it, the 2 brothers said, John, you have to lead this. We don't know what's in there, and we don't understand it anyway. And I wasn't even a director then. I was just... So they're sat either side of me at the end of this long table. And this idiot from London starts off, you know, whatever his name was. He said, I have to say, you do realise that Lex is a publicly quoted company, and it's just they have one of the most powerful, valued brands in the UK. And the offer you have sent through is absolutely derisory. And I'm thinking, well, what are you doing here? So without thinking, but it wasn't my company, I turned round, I said, well, I can tell you what's going to happen next. And I pointed at Abu. I said, I told him not to bother coming if we weren't close. So in the movies, what happens now is somebody leaves the room. I'm going for a fag because I smoke. And I hope you lot have got an early flight booked. And I said to the 2 brothers, out. And Don and
All
Dave
right, Mr. Trump.
And we literally, I said, out. And I got in the car. John, I said, lads, we can't afford, we haven't got the money. If they're going to take that, we haven't got the money. Go upstairs, I'll be up in a minute. Went to have a fag, and Abu joined me. He said, John, I'm sorry. I've got, as a PLC, we've got to employ these idiots. Give me 2 minutes. And we did the damn deal.
Wow.
And every time the negotiations got stuck between the 2 teams, we had to have it done by the 30th of December. Abu and I went for a fag. And we did the common sense bit. Shut the lawyers down. Right. How much can you give? What can I give? Got it done, and it transformed the business I was in. And I said to Don the night we signed it, I said, if I've got these figures right, next year you will earn $1 million. Your brother will earn $1 million. I said, I'll do very well out of it. I said, but I tell you now, your brother will shaft me. And he said, John, I promise you, I don't understand how you've done it. We need you. That'll never happen. I said, bloody stick in the water, Don. And David's style is he will not like me having more power than he's got. And 12 months later, they did exactly that. I honoured my bit. They got £1 million each in their trust funds. And we had a board meeting. I was sales director at the time, authorised my bonus, which is big, £250,000. I came back from holiday and they'd rewritten the board minutes like it never happened.
How can they do that then?
Well, they can't, because what David had forgotten in his arrogance, he was a bully. The auditors were sat in the room. So I came back from holiday, walked in, all the family were there. I thought, this is going to go well. And they told me they weren't paying me and all the rest of it. So I just said, well, I'll see you in court, lads. Walked out, rang the auditor and said, will you back me if we go to court? He said, yeah, I've got to, John. It's my profession. So I rang their father and said, look, give me money or I'll sue. And that was the best day of my life. Because I walked home and said, I'll never work for anybody again. And that decision ended up me starting my own company. And that's where my fortunes really changed. And that's where ultimately the ability to go motor racing came from. So that was a very long-winded answer to a very simple question.
What interests me is mate, you know what brew time's all about, mate. I'm into long conversations, no problems. What interests me there is you plainly have a very shrewd business sense, but you've got street business sense. How is that? Have you always have you always been able to smell out bullshit, or have you just like you arrived into the motor trade and you've just worked your way through the motor trade?
You learn,
progressing it, and
I'd say to anybody that the challenge for people looking, and I remember when I opened my own company, people do it to me. Didn't see it when I started it; they ended up saw it when it finished. It's your journey, and if you're white, you learn. You watch what successful people are doing. Everything in life, I believe, in any business or any walk of life, in your game, if you wanted to, for example, get to 2 million subscribers, the one piece of advice that I give you, don't talk to people that have got 50,000. Go and talk to everybody that's got 2 million plus subscribers. And what you will see is there's a pattern. They are doing things differently to people that have got 50,000 subscribers. You want to be a millionaire, go and sit with millionaires. You want to be a billionaire, go and sit with billionaires. Life is about patterns. So if you watch, the certain things work. So I learned in terms of selling, it didn't matter what the product was. If it's value for money, you can get the right sales traction, it's a win-win for everybody, you can sell. And the win-win for everybody was one of my key ones that got me successful, because I would look after my suppliers as much as I would my customers. A lot of people, when they're in the middle buying and selling something, try and beat the poor guy up that's making it. Now, I give him an extra penny or 2 penny because he'll look after you.
Yeah.
But that's things you learn by watching what's good and what's bad. So I was very fortunate. I worked around some good people. And yes, because I wanted to do things, I suppose I was more open to taking those lessons on. It was never about the money to me. And I suppose that's what did mark me out, which sounds crazy because I ended up having quite a lot of it. But I didn't do it for the money. I knew the money would come if I did it right. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, yeah.
It wasn't about, can I make an extra 5p on this or 10 quid on that? It was, if we do things right, the money will come. And here's the main one. If you're growing a business of any size, look after your people. That was my number one lesson. Me, I can have all the ideas I want. I can as good as I want. Without a good team behind you, you're foobard.
Yeah. And we've spoken about this side of things quite a bit at the old clan meets after a beer or two, in that, you and a lot of other people have said to me, you get somebody else in to help with the editing, share the load kind of thing. And like, I'm a total control freak, and I have to take everything on. And
really?
But I
really?
mean, at the moment, there's financial constraints, which mean I physically cannot afford an editor at the moment. It makes no sense. I don't make enough from the videos to justify. Well, who else would edit the vids?
You've got a question coming later on. I'll answer it as part of that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, shall we? In fact, no. There's more I want to move on to. Life coach. How you're a qualified life coach? How did that happen? In fact, can we pause? Can we pause for 2 seconds? Because this lighting is doing my head in. I'm all blown out here.
So
right. Okay.
I'll leave it on.
Refill.
But I'll go get a refill.
Lovely.
Well, that's interesting. It's changed. When we first started, it was doing it at 720. Now it's doing it at HD.
Yeah, I upped it to 1080.
All right, fair enough.
Right, we're back in the room, folks. I need to sort my lighting out, so apologies if I'm overexposed here and you're getting all this, but c'est la vie. If you're listening to it, you won't know what we're talking about. Anyway, right. Life coach.
Life coach. 2 stages to it. When I was late 20s, I went to run a Peugeot dealership in Harrogate. And a member of my team came to me going, I want to go on a training course. Yeah, no problem. I said, who with? And she said, Dale Carnegie. I went, who the hell is Dale Carnegie? So she told me it was about public speaking. And she was my service manager. I said, well, how much is it? She went, 1,500 quid. I went, what? In those days, and it's over 13 weeks.
Mm.
And I went, initially I went, no, I don't see the value in that. What's he going to do for the business? And she came back to me and said, John, I'd really like to do it, but the course leader has set you a challenge. Come and watch the first 2 weeks, and if you think it's shit, he won't charge us. I thought, well, that's fair play.
Yeah.
So off I go, thinking I'm watching. And Dale Carnegie, for anybody that doesn't know, was one of the original coaches. And he's produced one famous book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living, which is a brilliant book. And then anybody that gets stressed to read it, it'll frustrate the hell out of you because it's common sense.
Okay. What's it called again?
How to Stop Worrying and Start Living.
Okay.
And I still use some of the techniques today. So I'm sat there and basically, week one, all they're doing is introductions. And Peter, who was the head coach at the time, looked at me and said, you haven't stood up. I said, well, I'm here as a guest. I'm watching. Oh, no, we don't. We participate, even if you're a guest. Ended up doing the course myself. And it was how to basically develop people. And ended up becoming a voluntary trainer for them. So while I did that for 4 or 5 years and absolutely loved it, and saw people transform from being couldn't speak, couldn't stand up, but being sick speaking to running big events. So that got me thinking. And at the same time, throughout my life, both personally and professionally, I've been around suicides, attempted suicides. Thank God, never a successful one, but some serious attempts, some very close people close to me, a lot of mental illness. And I've paid, and again with staff that got into trouble, got stress, I've paid thousands of pounds to counsellors or experts. And what I watched was people get better but never happy. And there was always something, there must be a better way. You know, I was always one, you know, typically in work when I had my own company, I'd get members of staff coming, you need to fire so-and-so, they're useless. And I'm going, well, they weren't useless a month ago. They're not suddenly useless. So I'd sit and spend the time and go and talk to them. And 9 times it had nothing to do with work. They either got financial difficulties, personal problems, something else going on in their life. And if you solve that, you've got a very good employee back. And it might be through coaching, counselling, whatever. So I'd always had this, I wanted to understand why. And a couple of people very, very, very close to me really went through hard times, severe mental illness, suicide, being sectioned. And I felt powerless to help them. Now, and bear in mind, I'm Mr. Fix It. I'm Mr. I'll get things done.
Yeah.
So this was going on, and I never found an answer to it. And then I sold my business officially in 15. I still worked for them for 5 years after that, but 15. So I thought I'd been playing golf in Portugal for 20 years. I'd love to have a villa in Portugal. And so I'm going around with a dear friend of mine now, Elliot DeMarco, who was the sales director of a company called Ideal Homes. And he's showing me villas all here, there, and everywhere. And I'd met the owner of the business, a guy called Chris White, once. And as part of the conversation over a coffee, it was an exhibition in Manchester, he'd let slip his brother had got cancer. And it wasn't looking good. And I said to Elliot, how's Richard doing, Chris's brother? He said, not good. Chris is trying to sell his Ferrari to pay for an op he needs because the NHS won't. I went, say that again. He said, the NHS won't pay for his operation, need to save his life. So Chris is trying to sell his Ferrari. And I don't know why to this day. Something snapped inside me. And I couldn't go and look at any more villas that day. I said, Elliot, do me a favour, is Chris in? And then bear in mind, this is his sales director. Well, yeah. I said, just get me, let's go see him. Turn the car around. So he'd obviously rung Chris, said, John wants to see you. Didn't know why, thinking he'd done something wrong. And I walked into Chris and said, just tell me about your brother. He said, well, he's got cancer. It's not looking good. NHS won't pay for the operation. The only way to possibly try and save is to do it privately. Told me how much it was. Said, Chris, I can't buy a villa and do that. I said, I'll pay for it.
Jesus, man.
As it turned out, the NHS changed their mind. Richard had his operation and survived, and with long life expectancy.
Wow.
Now, as a consequence of that, next thing, Chris rings me. He wanted to surprise people because of my diary, because I was still working flat out, couldn't. He wanted to take me to see Tony Robbins in New York. And he had to ask because he couldn't guarantee I wouldn't be flying into China or somewhere crazy. And I went, what? I said, I've heard of Tony, but happy clappy? No, Chris. He said, John, trust me. You will just trust me. I want you to meet Richard. Richard's coming. Richard is so desperate to meet you because he's never met you. You know, he can't forget how a complete stranger would offer to do what you did. I said, all right, I'll go. New York, it was. And I knew about Tony Robbins. So I did a bit of research before I get there. And I've got to tell you, I watched that guy for 4 days. I've never seen anything like it. 10,000 people in a room.
Gee, where's Isla?
And he's dealing with what he said makes sense. I mean, he had me firewalking over hot coals by the end of the first night. And genuinely, 10,000 people. Oh, and as in, if you stopped moving, you ended up in hospital because you burnt your feet.
Mm-hmm.
That's just to prove you could do shit that you don't believe you can.
Yeah,
and that was an opening.
Just so people are up to speed, for anyone who's not aware of Tony Robbins, could you explain who he is, what it is that he does?
Yeah, Tony Robbins is the number one life coach. He's the guy that started it all. That's where coaching came from. He now he's a multi-billionaire because he puts into practice what he does, but his main thing is helping people. He's fed over 1 billion homeless people now through the projects he's run. But basically, he started in his 20s. He's now same age as me, 60s, wanting to help people. And his work ethic is incredible. And what marks him out in coaching as opposed to therapy. So a therapist can take you back. So if you've had a traumatic event in your past, a therapist will probably want you to go and talk about it. As a coach, you're never allowed to do that. The demarcation is acknowledge it, park it, talk about the future. Now, to me, my brain, that makes a lot more sense because you can't alter what happened yesterday, but you can alter what happens tomorrow. Yeah. So Tony is the undoubted number one in the world at coaching, and he now runs events all over the world. Everything from personal development, growth, business. You know, he does an event now. He'll have 10,000 people on it and 15,000 people online. God. To give you an idea, when COVID shut him down, because this guy was all about live, he'd do 5 days events, 15,000 people by that stage. He was shut down. He got hold of Zoom, who at the time had a limit of 1,000 people on Zoom. Within 3 months, they rewritten the entire code for him to do 30,000 people.
Wow.
He's running events in COVID, 30,000 people. Now, I suppose to help people, if you want to go and see what he does, on Netflix, there's a film called I'm Not Your Guru. But I need to preface it because it's very much done for the American audience. Because when I got there, when you go to one of Tony's events, it's all high fives, very, very high energy. Now, to somebody from Europe, particularly the UK, it's like, hey, not doing that shit. Yeah. And it was the bit, at first, I found off-putting until I got explained to me why he does it. And if you want to change anybody or anybody wants to change themselves, it's all about what he calls the state you're in. state. And the best way I can describe it is if I was to describe somebody, or you described to me, Bruce, somebody depressed, how would they sit?
Quite shut off, quite defensive.
Head down?
Yeah, head down, yeah. Not engaged, not focused.
How would they breathe?
I imagine it's very, very slow, very light.
Shallow.
Yeah. Shallow, that's the word, yes.
Now, describe somebody that's feeling great. How would they sit?
Oh, well, you're going to be much more animated. You're going to be focused, leaning forward. Bit of life about you, basically.
Up or down?
Well, up.
Right. In a depressed state or a lethargic state, you can't learn anything. You won't change. In a high energy state, feeling great, head, shoulders back, head up, breathing, you'll take new information on. So the reason Tony has very high energy and there's always loud music and dancing before he starts is to change people's state. So we don't understand it. Once you understand it, you get it. And once you do it, it's amazing the change it makes and how you feel. Now, the best way to get it across to our audience tonight is you're in your house, you've had a shit day, you feel crap, and you go out on your bike. How do you feel when you get on your bike? The same as you did in the house, or do you feel better?
Oh, a million times better. A million times better.
Because if you try and ride your bike at any kind of pace, with your head down, feeling lethargic, you're going to put it in a wall.
Yeah. Yeah.
But because we've trained your subconscious, I have on a bike, that this is a happy place. This is the thing where good times happen. We get on it and it changes our state. Well, music and high energy, you try being happy when you're dancing. Or you shake it, you can't do it. And if
I've got to be pissed to dance.
If everybody else in the room is doing it, you'll start laughing. Then you can change. So if you get your head around that bit, then everything else makes sense, because he's all about just going on to coaching for a minute. We were taught as coaches, you can't get anybody to change what they want to do or their behavior while they're in a negative state. So the first thing we were trained to do is how to get people out of that and into a positive state. So it's all about changing state and energy. But I then watched him. I then did another program called Date with Destiny, which is his signature program, where as individuals, you deep dive into you, what motivates you, why you do what you do, what makes you think like you do, why you've got limiting beliefs. In other words, something you believe so strongly that it stops you doing things, but you don't know why you believe it. You just believe it. Now, is it a real belief? Or if you change that belief into something else, would it enable you to do more? And every single one of us has them. We call them limiting beliefs in coaching. And he takes you through, over these 5 days, various mechanisms to change your beliefs and look at your belief and how to analyze it. And then the one that blows me away, night 4, this concept, everybody knows it's suicide night, which is crude. And that's because he knows if he's got 12, 14,000 people in a room, there are a number that are genuinely thinking of committing suicide.
Yeah, yeah.
Just law of numbers. And his teams all week work very hard to identify them, because you're in groups headed up by his staff, or his coaches. So they're red flagged. They know what to look for.
Wow. Yeah.
And Tony, this is how good he is, might choose one of those, he might not. And here's the interesting thing about human behavior. He'll stand in front, everybody knows it's coming, and he'll go, who in the audience tonight is thinking of, generally thinking of committing suicide? And some hands go up. And virtually every time he says, right, you lot can sit down. Now I want to talk to the ones who are really thinking of doing it.
Yeah.
And either if somebody he's identified really at risk that he wants to talk to isn't, he'll go and find them because his team have told him where they're sitting, or he'll pick somebody else. And it might take him, because he's then trying to do what a coach would do over 6 or 9 months in one night, which is why he never puts an end time on his sessions. And I've been sat, should have finished at 10 o'clock at night, been at 3 o'clock in the morning with him.
Jeez.
And he'll keep going till he's turned that person around. And I've watched him do it. I've watched him do it live. And it's incredible. So what that did, that lit a fire in me. I don't understand. Why is he doing that? Why has he said that? Why is he doing that? And then, as my mother would say, we have a saying in our family called good luck, bad luck. Something that looks bad luck today ends up being good luck in 6 months' time. And I did 12 months of all Tony's programs, was fascinated, got so much out of it. And then I was going through a tough time personally myself with a breakup or potential breakup of a relationship. And the phone rang one day, it was in COVID. And it was one of Tony's head coaches. And Linda, bless her, and she rang me and said, as part of the deal you did with Tony, you get free coaching. I never thought I needed it. I went, what? He said, and not only that, I've been picked to do you because you're awkward. They analyse your personality. He says, you're a bugger. And I went, I tell you what, I'll do it on one condition. Coach me, and then as part of the session, you've got to explain to me why you did what you did. I want to understand. I don't just want to be coached. I want to understand why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I have to say, she got me through a very difficult time in my life. Found it invaluable. But after 6, 7 sessions, she said, look, we've given up on you. How would you like to be a coach?
Wow.
I went, what? She said, Tony would like to become part of the coaching team. And I said, well, what does it involve? I said, because I'm not doing it full time. I'm still working. I promised my children I'll see my grandkids grow up. I said, no, we'd like some good quality part-time coaches. Now, here's the rub. This is he says, but you've got to pay for it. It's not free. There's 3, you start in September. It's all the way through to Christmas, 5 or 6 days a week, between 3 in the afternoon and 3 in the morning, European time. And you've got a coach on top of that when we get it to practicing level. And you've got to pay for it. You've got to pass each section. If you qualify for the first bit, you pay for the second bit, pay for the third bit. I went, I'm in. And I absolutely loved it.
Really?
I learned so much about what makes me. Yeah, go on.
What is the appeal for you? What is the attraction for you to that?
I was under the misapprehension was, Linda said to me, why do you want to be a coach? And I said, what were the words I used? I want to be able to fix people. Oh, I got the biggest bollocking I've ever had. John, rule 1, you can't fix anybody. They have got to want to fix themselves. You can help them.
Right. Yeah.
You cannot. So he said, if you want to come into this thinking you can be a hero and fix people, not happening. We'll show you how to help people on their journey if they want to change. So that was the first. So that got my ears up. Right, hold on a minute. I've got it wrong all these years because I felt, I've they are very close family members and members of staff that I've to go through a real hard time mentally. I just felt powerless. Plus, the Dale Carnegie thing, I don't know why I was interested in taking, I get massive satisfaction in seeing somebody that's really struggling with something and watching them grow. I did when I was working. Part of the joy of running a company was to take people from junior levels and watch them grow. It's not a money thing. It's nothing to do with money. It's about that satisfaction of, you walk into a room and you can watch, if you watch people's body language, somebody that's really struggling. And if you go and spend 10 or 15 minutes talking to them, you can change it for them.
Mm.
Not always, but just spending a little bit of time, you get, and I don't know why I do it. I can't, I know where it comes from. I suppose, full disclosure, my dad was a vicar.
Mm-hmm.
So we grew up, and I can't think of growing up, there's many weeks we didn't have somebody living with us. Because the nature of mum and dad was open house, certainly Sunday lunch. We hadn't got Scooby-Doo was coming, they just turned up. But very often we'd have people that had fallen on hard times staying with us. It was open house, you never had to book an appointment, you have to ring us, you just turned up at the front door and you come. And I suppose deep down, I learned that from my dad.
Mm.
And my mum. My mum's the same. And he never changed, and they never changed. So if I see somebody that's struggling, I can't just walk past. If I can do something about it, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And just a general fascination with what makes us all tick. What makes us do the things we do, and how can you change it? And just the reward you get. I mean, Tony, I didn't do it for the money, because the money, compared with what I could do if I started doing business again, would never be good. But when you've turned somebody around, when you've seen somebody go from having a major problem in their life, turn it round and celebrate and move on, that's a massive reward. It's a massive kick. And I loved it, and I'd still be doing it. Unfortunately, I got to the stage that by the January I got 85 clients. I was working, because it was global clients. It was from 6 a.m. till 10 at night. Now, if I'd been 20 years younger, I'd have been, I'll have this as a life. And then they came on to me, will you run some, with your background, can we teach you to be a business coach? Can we teach you to be this coach? And these were 12-week block commitments. And I rang my coach and said, Linda, how's this work? She said, John, be very careful. Because yes, taking a 12-week commitment on doesn't sound too bad, does it? Till they ask you to start another one in 2 weeks, and then another one in 2 weeks, and another one in 2 weeks, because then you've got a massive commitment. And it's going to be a personal now. All my working life, I was focused on the business, not on family. So if I'm honest, let my 2 daughters down when I was growing up. And I feel it, and they feel it. I have a great relationship with them, beautiful relationship with them. But I made them both a promise. I will not be an absent grandfather for my grandchildren.
Yeah, I get you.
I've got 5 beautiful grandchildren. I've got a small window. Flynn, my eldest, is 11 this year. Rosie, the little bugger, and Milo, the 2 youngest ones, are 5, and I've got me wrapped around this. I don't want to miss that. I didn't have it with my kids. So when it came to, do I go full-time coaching, I knew what it meant. I would be back into, I'm not available, I can't see you.
Yeah.
So I rang the head of coaching and I said, look, do I have to go full-time? She said, John, the business has changed its requirements, full-time only. And I went, no, I can't do it. I won't do it. I still use it. I've got all the material. I've got the videos, etc., and I still use it. But I just do it quietly now. Don't take money for it. If I just see somebody that's struggling, I'll use it.
Wow, mate, that's commendable. Wow. So, how do you find? Is that skill set that you have there? Is that something that you can apply? Well, obviously, it's something you can apply into your own business world, because you can apply it with staff and their performance and how you see they're dealing with things. But does it help in any other form of business?
You can use those lessons in any form of any business dealings if you want. If business is your thing, you can use it with every interaction you have with people. It depends what you want to use that skill set for, because it becomes ingrained. So, Language is a big one when you're a coach, because language can trap us. Because our subconscious does not know the difference between real or imaginary. So if we say we can't do something, well, I've got some advice to anybody that says that. Don't even try, because you've just told your brain you ain't doing it.
Yeah.
Words trap us. This is difficult. I can't see a way of doing that. Or I'm the only one that can do this. Well, guess what? You'll never find a way of somebody else doing it if your belief is, I'm the only one that can do it.
It sounds quite familiar, this, John.
Because you've just told your subconscious, just think this through. I am the only one that can do that. Your subconscious is very clever. It's not going to waste effort proving you're wrong because you've given it an instruction. So if it sees something that might help, it'll disregard it, actually, because it needs to enforce your belief of, I'm the only one that can do this. Now, to give you an example, you asked me earlier what made
by the way, people are watching this and listening to this. This is what every clan meetup is like. Around about 11 o'clock at night, 10:30, 11, when we're about 12 beers in. This is the conversation John and I have.
I'm only a glass and a half in.
It's like dairy milk.
The thing that made me my money was a very simple mantra we had in the business. I started my own business in 2003. I stood in front of the staff. It was losing $1 million a year when I bought it.
Losing $1 million a year?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I hadn't got any money, real money, to buy a business. So I had to buy one that was in the shit and hope I could turn it round. And we did. But it was the people that did it. But what was at the core of it, because the staff I inherited were just beaten, so pissed off. They'd been working for business losing money for a long, long time. Couldn't ever see a way out of it. They actually thought I was a receiver the day I walked in. And I came up with a saying, right, we're going to go and do business internationally. And they all looked at me like I was absolutely barking mad. And I said, here's another rule change. If I ask for something, you've got to work out as a team how. I will not accept no. So never come and see me, either individually or as a group of people, with no. Tell me how. My deal back to you guys is, if I don't adopt your idea, I'll explain to you why. It may be financial, maybe legal, maybe timing issue. But my commitment is, I'll give you feedback. I won't ignore you. But the commitment is, if I say I want something doing, all right, find me a way to do this, as a team of people, you've got to do it. And for the first 6 months, that was a difficult sell. Then they got it. And then they got the satisfaction from doing it. And we went from 1 country to 54 countries in less than 10 years.
Jesus.
And that was based on a lot of good people. But I knew I'd got it right when they were taking new starters on. And part of the induction, not asked for by me, was, see the big boss? Never say no to him. Tell him how. Because if you ever say no to him, it's not going to end well. With a smile on their faces. And the staff loved it. But what it gave, it just empowered everybody because they felt valued and important. And the things they achieved for me. They wrote a brand new software system and took it from being in English to multilingual, multi-currency in 4 months and delivered it.
And these are all the same staff, the original staff?
Yeah. And even better than that, they were working for a supplier and I didn't pay them. So I hadn't got hit. People say to me, oh, I need money for this, I need money for that. I can't do this, can't do that. When I bought the business, because I hadn't got the money and we were losing so much, and I knew we needed to change to be successful, I sat behind my computer supply and said, look, here's the deal. You do some work for it. Let's scrap the normal model. Because normally when you're talking to computer programmers, you commission them, you pay them, then you spend the rest of your life arguing about who did what wrong. and who's going to pay for the fix. I said, hey, let's scrap that model. As I grow, I'll pay you a percentage of my growth. But let's scrap who did what. Let's just get it to work. And to be fair, he backed me. So I walked in his office one day and said, I need a system that does multi-currency, multi-language. What customer? I said, I haven't got it yet. I said, I'm going to go and find them. Do you write me the system? And they did. I ended up buying them, but it's empowering people. It's all about people. No business. My business. I was very lucky. It's all about people. Any business is about the people in it, and empowering them, making them feel good, rewarding them, let them take risk. Don't be frightened to take a risk. My only time I got, and I fired a lot of people over the years, was you lie to me, it won't go well. Yeah. If you've made a mistake, come and own up, we'll be fine, as long as you learn from it. If you try and hide it, not going to go well.
Yeah, I get that.
Well, yeah, there's a thing in coaching called limiting beliefs that holds all of us back. That's a belief we will have that we stick to. We don't know why we've got it even. We don't know where it came from. That's hardwired into our subconscious, and that makes decisions. And actually, when do we ever step back to go, why do I think that? Is that a real... Is it me that can only do that? Is that a real thing? If I changed it to, I am not doing this anymore, I'm going to get somebody else to do it, would I find a way? Where does the focus go? Where does the energy go?
Yeah.
So if it's only me can do it, you'll find that you'll come up with 1,000,001 reasons to justify that.
He's talking direct to me here, isn't he, folks? I know he is.
I'm talking to 1,000 people. Might be hopefully giving you some guidance. But equally, if you go, I'm sick of this editing, I'm sick of whatever it might be, I will find a way of getting somebody else to do it to the quality I want, the way I want it done, that grows me, my channel, my business. But first of all, I would say, what do you want the business to do? What do you want but if you turn it to a how from a can't, so nobody else can do it, is a very limiting statement. You put yourself in the end of an alley and there's no door out.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you were to spin it on its head to go, this is what the quality is I want, but I'm not doing it, would you think about it differently? So is it a lack of resource or resourcefulness?
For me personally, it feels like a lack of time, because I really enjoy the editing. I really enjoy that part of it, but I've got myself into such a backlog of content. You know, I've got all of 2024 still to edit, as well as a couple from 2023 and one from 2021. Still like tours and trips.
A Swiss trip.
Yeah. Well, there's two. There's a Swiss trip from 2023 that I've not edited, and there's the first one I did during COVID in 2021, which needs to be edited. And I don't have the time, but I do enjoy editing. You know, I really enjoy that process. But there's not enough. You know, if I had the whole of this year to sit on my arse and edit, I could probably I could get through all that content within the year. But obviously I've got the touring. The touring kicks off at the end of April. And
let me ask you a couple of questions. And I am not an expert in your field. As I've said, right. I managed to film a tank bag. Right? So what I know about what you do and the process, you could write in the postage stamp. So I do not consider myself an expert. But I've watched enough YouTube videos of people in your field that seem to be producing videos of very high quality in a lot less time. So my brain goes, what are they doing that Bruce isn't?
Mm.
How are they achieving? And for example, one of them is really good TV. Now, you can't argue with the quality of his footage because he knows what he's talking about because he does it for a living.
Yeah.
But how can he knock a video out in a day that takes you 6? Now, me, I'd want to know how.
Because it's a different style of vid. Like, they're totally different style of vids. I do jump cut.
I'm not saying let's have the debate now, right? I'm just saying my brain is, I'd be wanting to go and talk to everybody that appears to do it quicker, but a quality you're happy with, to understand what their process is. What do they do differently? Can I learn lessons? Can I adapt it? Can I do something that so it's taking the blinkers off and going, let's go and learn some new knowledge. Is there some bugger out there that's got a switch that, Jesus Christ, that's just taken me 3 days? Could have asked that question. I don't know. I'm not in your field, but I'd certainly be going, right, who in my industry is doing, do I rate quality-wise, etc.? Right, if they're doing, can I go talk to them? Because from what I've seen about this community you're in, not me, they're very open.
Yeah, most are. Yeah, definitely.
So it's not for tonight, the deep dive, but if you were to change some of your language, might you get a different outcome? And that applies to all of us. I'm guilty of it.
Yeah. I hadn't actually looked at it that way, in that my language around, the editing issue I've got is very negative. And you're right. I'm not opening myself up to looking for a solution, because in my head it's just like, I can't get someone to help with that. That's that. I just need to deal with it. And it's like, put your head down, edit, but it never sorts the issue out, does it? Yeah. Anyway, right. This is not for me. But right, man, that is an hour and a half so far. Can we start hitting questions? Otherwise, we're going to be here for about another 5 hours, I think.
Yeah.
Right, cool. We'll head across to the clan over on Patreon. Patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one. There she is, Mark from Leeds. Hello, fine gentlemen. What a fantastic guest this week. I'm looking forward to this chat. Now, my question is to John. Do you have any superstitions or rituals that you go through on race weekends?
Me, only one, and it's more the teams request a bit of fun, because I'm not naturally superstitious. Drivers certainly do. They've all got their own little routines and clothing and crap. The only one I did, when I first went into the team, I did a year as team manager. And you can imagine, in between races, we have anywhere between an hour and 3/4 to get the cars repaired. And sometimes they can be very badly damaged. But if you're out in the pit lane, you're out of the race. So one of the jobs of a team manager is to keep an eye on the clock, because the lads are all working away. They've got their heads down, changing bonnets, bits of engines, and God knows what. Yeah. So as a bit of fun in year one, I used to do a 20-minute. I'm fairly loud, as people may have. So I'd just stand in the middle of the garage and shout how long was left. And all the team would just make a bit of fun and shout back. Last year, I didn't do it. We employed a team manager, and it took about 3 meetings before, John, why have you started doing it? And I genuinely found it useful because my team manager was quite quiet, but also it just became a bit of a signature thing because they could hear me halfway down the bloody pit lane. So that's about the only thing now. There's a ritual. I'll keep an eye on where the cars are up to and do them a countdown. 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 3 minutes, move your asses, get these cars in the pit lane. But no, I don't do, I'm not superstitious at all.
So Speedworks, like, you're on British Touring Car Championship. What sort of level is it? Is it a series that you're in, or?
Yeah, Touring Cars is recognised as the top senior programme in the UK, motorsport.
Right.
So we're top of the tree. Basically, it's 10 weekends a year. We do 30 races. So 3 races every Sunday, starting just before lunch, finishing about 5 o'clock. And we go all around the UK. So we start at Donington, then to Brands, then to Snetterton, Thruxton, Alton Park, Croft, Knockhill in Scotland, back to Donington, Silverstone, back to Brands Hatch. And it's chaos.
How many people are in the team then? What sort of size team is it?
For us, 4 cars plus catering staff. Because we
4 cars?
4 cars. We're running, and we're also entertaining over 100 guests at a weekend. We'll have over 60 staff on the ground.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So this isn't like, it's not like the old boy in the van sleeping in the back of his van. No. Wow.
Oh no, this is stressful.
So do you just race British Touring Cars? Obviously, it just races in the UK then.
That does. We also run, and this year we've cut our program back a bit. We're doing a thing called the McLaren Trophy, which goes around all around Europe. But that's a separate group of lads, because the lads that do the touring cars, they're knackered, because their routine is we get to the circuit on a Thursday morning latest. Thursday, Friday are set-up days. Friday, Saturday race. They pack down Saturday night, get the trucks back to the workshop sometime Monday, unload them on a Tuesday or Monday night, and then they have a week to strip them and prep them before going back on the trucks the following Tuesday night. Because we virtually race every other weekend.
Jeez. So this is full time then. This is your job full time with the race team.
Once you start the season, so here the winter's a bit of a weird time. There's a lot of work goes on. We're still in the middle of it now of getting drivers for next year and sponsors for next year, but it's not the same level. The lads are busy in the workshop. Once we get to the end of April, we start testing beginning of April, but once we get to the last weekend in April, it literally is every other weekend till July. Then we get a break. And then from August, every other weekend till October, virtually.
Right.
And it's not every other week. It's not every other weekend, because you're Thursday traveling to the circuit, getting back late Sunday night, Monday you're a write-off. Because I don't sit down. We leave the hotel normally 6-ish in the morning to get to the circuit, and literally I do not sit. I mean, sit until 8-9 o'clock at night. But it's one hell of a buzz when you get it right.
Yeah, I bet the ups are really up there and the downs are really down there.
and you have to accept going in. There's more downs than ups.
Yeah. Right, cheers for that one, Mark. Next question, Gordon Bissell, sorry. Hi, Bruce and John. You can probably write on the back of a postage stamp what I know about motorsport. However, I am intrigued about your journey to become a life coach. During your time as a life coach, have you ever seen some serious transformations in those you have coached? In other words, have you witnessed the fruits of your labour? You may remember, John, you and I were the only 2 that were on Senna comms at the Dundee Rideout. I think you said you were from down Preston way. I got married there in 86.
Yeah, hi, Gordon. I've been watching his series with Riding Through Grief.
Craig. Yeah.
But Gordon and I spent a couple of hours chatting on that clan meet, because we're the only one on Senna comms.
Mm-hmm.
When you're busy chewing our heads off.
He's a nice guy, Gordon, isn't he?
He's a great guy. Yeah.
He's a lovely bloke to have a conversation with as well, I find, Gordon. He likes to go deep into things, doesn't he? He likes to really explore the topics that you chat about. It's interesting.
Yeah. So to answer his question, me personally, there's 2, I suppose, there's 3 that stand out for different reasons. One is, and normally as a coach, you won't do friends. And I had a dear friend of mine, I won't name him, known for over 20 odd years. But we all knew he had a drink problem, big drink problem. And I'd tried to help him in the past. I'd had him out to the villa. We'd done a dry week. He promised me never drink again. As all alcoholics do, started drinking again, tried to hide it from me. And he did various attempts at promising the world. And, unless an alcoholic decides they want to stop, you cannot, no matter how much it frustrates you, you can't do it for them.
Yeah.
And he rang me one night a couple of years ago, absolutely distraught. And this was a regular occurrence, by the way. Falling out with his girlfriend. She kicks him out of the house, got a restraining order on him. But this time he was penniless. Absolutely rock bottom. He was now facing, which is ultimately where it goes, streets or, as far as he's concerned, ending his life. Very proud man. He said, John, I need help. And I did him a deal that night. I said, look, Lordy, we've been down this road before. I'll help you. I'll break my own rule. I'll help you. But if you drink again, I won't. So I got him a mate of mine. I rang a mate of mine and said, look, will you take him in for a month? I said, but if that bugger touches a drink, kick him out the front door. And I started to coach him. And you need when somebody's like that, you have a small window. If they decide they want to change, to find a lever, as we call it, to get him to change. And I'm talking to him, and he's telling me, I got to the bottom of why he drank. And if it's something like alcohol, you in the past associate it with something good and positive, which is why you still do it. Because you said to your brain, it's a good thing, not a bad thing. And it turned out, when he was at school, got mistreated, but when he got drunk and was funny, people liked him. So his subconscious had made this is a good thing link for him.
Yeah.
And he never stopped it. And it got worse. But he had that gene that he became an alcoholic. And I remembered, I've known him a long, long time. He used to be an avid pro-smoker. Lord, he wasn't just a smoker. He was a pro-smoker. As in telling everybody, you should smoke. And then one day he stopped. Just stopped. And I talked to him about how he'd done that. And he said, well, it's going to kill me. So I stopped. I went for hypnotherapy and it was going to kill me, so I stopped. And I just said, well, what do you think alcohol's going to do if you carry on? And he went, you bastard, I've got it. I'll never drink again. And he hasn't.
That easy?
He's 2 years dry.
How had he never made that connection before?
Because here's how powerful your subconscious is, Bruce. And this is only through my coaching journey I've understood it. We make connections very often when we're young or through our adulthood, and we don't question them. We just believe something. We don't even know why we believe it. Our brain's hardwired. So very often it goes back to our childhood, but certainly it can also happen in your mid-teens. Your subconscious will make a link with something, and you never question it. You don't think about it as a belief. You just do it. I enjoy the drink. It was only when we went on the journey of why do you think it's a good thing, he told me.
Yeah.
And then once I got him to attach what we call a different meaning to it, that it would kill him, he thought differently. And he literally rewired himself there, like that.
Wow.
Now, he's done lots of works ongoing to understand other stuff, not with me.
Excuse me.
But the bugger, he hasn't drunk for 2 years. So that was one that really meant a lot to me. He was a dear friend, still is. And then the other one was one of my first coaching clients, which was quite funny. So you go on the first call, and the first call is very much an introductory call. You've got this piece of paper, you're getting to know each other. And the first question this lady asked me was, the second question, how many times have you been divorced? And I went, twice. She said, brilliant. You can tell me how to do mine. I went, what? Well, he's useless. He's an idiot. I've got 2 children. I don't want him around. I can't stand him. So, whoa. We did some work together. I challenged some of her beliefs and got her to do some work. We talked about relationship, what makes them work, what doesn't make them work. And 3 months later, she rang me. She said, John, I've never been so happy.
Oh.
I am so glad you stopped me and made me think. It was me that was being the problem, 50%, 60% of the problem. And I'm so happy with the guy. We have a family unit like you wouldn't believe. And all I did was say, how will your children feel if you give up on him without trying? I said, is it worth 90 days? And I asked her to do certain things for 90 days, and it transformed her relationship.
Wow. Were you aware of these techniques and what to look for in someone that wanted life coaching? Were you aware of all that stuff just inherently, or is it all stuff you've learned through the courses?
No, some of it is life experience. But what I lacked was, because of my personality, I would naturally go into tell mode. When they did my personality test, basically, I don't do detail. I'm very blunt. Get on with it. So you want to explain something to me, give it me straight. Don't faff it. Don't put 50 words around it when 5 will tell me what the issue is.
Yeah.
And ask me what I would do, I'll give you the answer. The challenge with that is, when I'm communicating with other people, if I talk like that, it frightens the crap out of most people.
See, I like that. I like just direct. I like that.
if it's not, so to give you an example, I started my coaching journey when I was still being trained. They asked me to start doing some early, but the promise was they'd only give me my personality type to coach. So basically, it can just be me, be blunt, and they're talking to me, be blunt, right, get on with it. And I got the forms through, and it was the 3rd client they asked me to coach was if I'm type A, this was a type C. Now, I am the antichrist to a type C. A type C is never make a decision because there's always more information. So don't ask me to make a decision today, because I might get more information, so I could put it off till tomorrow because there might be more info. So I'll never make a decision.
I can be like that. Like that. Yeah.
But you're inherent something or other. So, and they're normally very quiet, and you can't ever tell them they're wrong. Now, you can tell me I'm wrong all day long, and if you've got the facts, I'll take it. So type C, you can't tell them wrong.
Jeez, I can be an A and a C, I think. Sorry.
So I rang Linda and said, Linda, what do I do? I said, how do I coach a type C? And this is genuine. She said, John, turn the lights off, lie on the floor, and speak very quietly, and never tell them they're wrong. I went, are you being serious? She went, could not be more serious. And she was right. And the odd slip, the time where the client would say something that I'd slip and go back to me, because you do it phone coaching, you don't do visuals at all.
Right.
So they go quiet. And the reason I couldn't get, just to explain that, you hear far more. You're taking far more when you're just listening. Because you're not, if I'm watching your visual, so I'm bothered now by your screen's going fuzzy on me. I'm thinking about it. If I was just listening to you, I get every change of tone, breathing pattern. So it's weird. So that was the second one. And then the third one, I'd seen Tony coach and talk about how we have different personalities inside us. that will, depending on the circumstances, will come to the fore. And again, I had this client who was been in the armed forces for 30 years, major. Been to some of the worst war zones. He worked in the medical corps, so he'd seen mass graves, mass murders, been through stuff none of us could imagine. But what finished him off with, his daughter died of cancer just after giving birth to her son. And he'd just come out of the army because that had got to him finally. And it destroyed him and his wife, absolutely destroyed them. And they were devastated. He got survivor's guilt. He thought he'd failed his daughter because for the first time in life, he couldn't fix it. And saying to somebody that's been a career in the army, you can't fix something, doesn't comprehend. Really, 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 I didn't want to be here. His wife didn't. Yeah, they'd given up.
Yeah.
And I tried getting through to whatever I did, I was struggling. A part of coaching is to just say, don't give up. There's a way. Just keep looking. There will be a door that will open. And one night I was chatting to him and I said, do you trust me? He said, yeah, I do. I said, right, tomorrow morning I'm going to ask you to do something in front of your wife. Just do it. Just do exactly what I ask, and then we'll talk about the results afterwards. And he looked at me, I said, just trust me. And I made him stand in front of his wife. I said, I gave him something to read. Very powerful A4 piece of paper with very powerful words on it. I said, but do it as a major in the army. Stand to attention, and I shouted at him. Stand to attention, major, and I used his last name. Talked to him just like he would be in the army. He said, say those words to your wife like you mean them. And he snapped straight back into major mode. Now, what she was missing in their relationship for 30 years, she'd been married to a senior officer in the army.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he wasn't.
As a senior officer in the army. She did not know how to cope with a wimp that had no direction, because every time she'd seen him for 30 years was, we're moving to this country, that country, this is what life's going to look like, and here's the plan, and this is what we're doing. And the pair of them are drifting. The moment such a special moment, absolutely in flood of tears by the time he'd finished the A4 sheet of paper. She got a man back.
Wow.
And just that simple, and that it didn't totally fix it but then he realised he needed structure, he needed to put structure back in life, planning back into life. Because for 30 years, he knew every day of the week where he had to be, what he had to be. And that was the core of him. Where we put that back into his life and his planning, so that, the motorhome is their thing. They start to plan trips, go places, and they now plan in advance. That organisation bit's got him back into the skill set he needed in the army, which is the core of it.
And who he was.
Yeah, who he is.
Yeah.
So
sorry, go on.
That's the joy of, and I can give you many more, but that's just three that stand out for different reasons. One, a dear friend of mine that came back from the brink, but Paddy wasn't far off the brink when I first met him. He was just destroyed because he thought he'd let his baby girl down.
That what you said there about the major retiring and being a different person, you see that in the old Bill. Like I have mates and colleagues that I've worked with who've retired, and some really struggle because, like, especially if they've had rank, if they've been like a sergeant or an inspector or above that in uniform, all of a sudden, like, they retire and they have to do things like, join the neighborhood watch, or they have to become like the the neighbourhood coordinator or the bowl club. They've got to try and be the secretary, or they need a position. They need something, because without that, they are lost. Like I've seen it with folk who are just.
But that, Bruce, is a condition for all of us, almost regardless of age, which is to, I think that there's two thought patterns there. One is, where are you going? So you get to a roundabout and you don't know which exit, you keep going round the roundabout. Well, ultimately, that's not very rewarding. You'll get dizzy for one and pissed off. But if you don't know which exit, where are you going? So this applies to every human individual. And I know from personal experience, I really struggled with it. The odd time I didn't have a goal, I was listless. I didn't enjoy life. And why? So I'd say to everybody, if you haven't got that goal, and this is not about doing some crazy, let's climb Mount Everest. Although it's a very good example. But do you think Chris Bonington, the guy that first did it, just woke up one morning and thought, I'll go for a walk and ended up at Everest? No, he didn't. He planned it. That's where I want to go. You, with your world trip, you'll have put some planning into it.
Have I mentioned that?
It was off the cuff. No, it wasn't.
No, mate. It's 3 years of planning, that.
Yeah. Now, if you think about when we're happiest as humans is, why are we getting up in the morning? The problem from anybody that's coming from employment, or particularly a structured employment, police, armed forces, something like that, where you've got to be at a certain place at a certain time, otherwise bad things won't happen to you, and it's controlled by another very strong structure, you retire, and where's that voice? Yeah. So unless you replace it with something, so therefore that's why clubs, secretaries' jobs, responsibility help, because it's structure. It's what that person recognises.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can replace it. You could do it yourself by going, but most people don't, because they've never had that freedom of going, there's 365 days here. What am I going to do with them? And I still struggle with it today. I hate the winter. Get me into the race season, I'm happy as a pig, because, 2-week turnaround, I go and see my mum, I go and see the kids, go and see a mate, do a bit of a ride out, bang, race weekend again. So the April to October flies. I see my diary with nothing in it, and I'm like, I struggle. I don't like it.
How's your editing, John?
How's my editing?
I can give you plenty of stuff to do.
Funny enough, this will make you laugh. Now this is the difference, right? I get given my camera for my birthday. It's only a very, very cheap one, bless the kids. But I thought, actually, if I'd done it, it would have been nice to have, not ever to publicise, I don't want to be a vlogger, but when I did the NC 500 last year, to have some footage, because down the west was like gobsmacking. My grandson, 11 in March, wanted a computer for Christmas. So Granddad's given him his old computer. We've rigged it up. And I said, there's only one condition. He said, what's that? I said, you're not playing games on it all the time. I said, if you promise me, I don't mind you playing games, but I want you to teach you how to use it as a tool. Guess who's got Da Vinci on his PC? And he's ready to use it. He's also already done his first YouTube video.
Really? Is he good?
He will be, because he's a natural at it, by the way. He finds it interesting. If I'd said to one of my granddaughters do it, it would have been, no, Grandad, it's not pink and fluffy.
John, I'm seeing a solution to my predicament, John.
Yeah. But just on that, this is quite genuine. I can't believe in the clan or somebody associated to the clan doesn't have that skill set and the time with some reward. It may be a free trip. I want to be chicken strips. I am sure there's a deal to be done somewhere. Or thinking through the other solution is there are people that edit far quicker than you. I don't know how. So I'm not judging you or them. is there something they're doing that you could use?
Yeah.
Because, you know,
Yeah.
Andy, Mr. and Flyer obviously can't be doing your timescale.
Yeah, they do different vids to me, though. Yeah.
Hey?
His is him and like Wheelie Good, and their style of video is totally different to mine. Like I jump cut, and I don't just switch the camera on and leave it and then just talk. I'll talk for a little bit, switch it off, wait however long. It might be a minute, 2 minutes, it might be half an hour. And then I'll switch him back on and I'll carry the conversation because I want the background to be changing as I'm going along. And then I jump cut through everything. So I keep it nice and dynamic, just because, to be honest, watching someone just chat riding a bike bores the shit out of me. I need things to be changing. For me personally, I need it to be changing all the time.
Not to carry this on because it's not for tonight, but I'll give you 2 observations off the bat on my very, very, very limited experience.
Yeah.
Flyer is a bit like chat says what he needs to say about the bike because he's mainly bike reviews, less than his reviews. Really, really good TV does exactly what you've just described you want to do. If you talk to him about his process, he decides what he wants to say and where he wants to say it. He doesn't have his camera on that much. Perhaps we'll have a conversation, not for tonight.
Okay, right. We'll draw a line under that one.
Because I can't help because I've got no skill set in that area whatsoever.
Gotcha. Okay, right. Cheers for that one, Gordon. Next one, Paul Sparrow. Hi, both. How you doing, Paul? Hope you're both well. John, with your extensive knowledge and back of vehicle warranty world, with your extensive knowledge, I think the and back bit's just, I don't know what that is. With your extensive knowledge of the vehicle warranty world, was there any brands which spring to mind which caused the most work and stand out as ones never to buy? And how did you end up with the racing team, and why the Toyota brand?
Okay, so multiple answer questions. So warranty, first of all, if we're talking about vehicle reliability by Japanese, end of.
Right.
It doesn't matter which ones they are. As a warranty company, we loved them. They never went wrong. The next bit's more difficult to answer because pretty much on paper, if you're talking about nearly new vehicles, the warranty wording is very much similar. It's all defects. It then comes down to the attitude of the manufacturer. So this applies to cars and bikes, by the way. If you take BMW, their product is no more reliable than any other European manufacturer. Has plenty of faults on it. What they're very good at fixing them. Both car and bike, fix it, is their mantra. Give the customer, you may have had a bad experience because it's gone wrong, but get it fixed.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. I have both cars. I've had both cars and bikes and experienced both. Getting a loan car, if you've got a problem on your car, a problem with the bike, I get loan vehicles, for example. So this is, as a personal customer, also an industry experience. The other end of the spectrum is, let's say we say no, we'll see if we get away with it. And the wording's the same. So if I take it to the bike world, KTM well known. But I've also, for example, had a recent experience with Triumph in Portugal, where they had a bad batch of tyres worldwide recall on because they were faulty.
Yeah.
Not the dealer's fault, to be fair. But it meant as a customer, I had to take my bike off the road. And then they said, well, we ain't got a new tyre for 2 months. So I, because of my warranty background, wrote to Triumph in the UK and said, well, that's not acceptable. It's not my fault. Either let me go and fit a different brand of tyres or let me a hire bike, loan bike. Their answer was to refer me to the Spanish division, who just ignored me completely. Now, fortunately, I've got a relationship with the dealer. He took one off his demo bikes, but so that was the difference. They ignored me. I won't buy another Triumph now.
Yeah.
Same
I had a bit
wording,
of a bad experience with Triumph as well. Yeah,
identical wording. It's the attitude of the manufacturer. Mercedes are pretty good at getting you fixed. Land Rover depends where you are in the world. So UK, new cars are pretty good at fixing them because they know they bloody keep breaking down. And they're a remarkable brand for the loyalty they've got despite being fairly unreliable. But I did a lot of work with them in the Middle East, and that was for the other reason. In 2003, 2004, they launched the V8 petrol out there when they were still Ford-owned. And through Ford arrogance, they did all the hot weather testing in Arizona. And the Yanks went, well, it works in Arizona, it'll work in Dubai. No, the fuel quality is crap, and the sands are different density. So your filters don't work. So every V8 they delivered in 2001, 2002 blew up. So their brand value went through the floor. They went to a 5-year warranty, at which I underwrote years 3, 4, and 5, and it was, how do we pay everything?
wow,
Virtually.
really?
If the customers never had it serviced, John, we want you to pay it because we need to restore the brand value.
Yeah.
And to be fair, it worked. They went from selling 7,000 a year in the region to 30,000 at its peak before the crash in 2008. So it's very much depending on the manufacturer's attitude to a degree. They all make cars with faults on. Yes, Japanese are head and shoulders because of their the way they build cars, the way they think about cars, their processes. I've been fortunate enough to go to the Toyota factory in Derby. Their self-improvement, every member of the team factory is involved in improving the process. It doesn't matter what position you've got. If you see something you can do better, you can stop the line. You see a fault line, you stop it. They actively encourage new ideas. And when you see what they call them members, not staff, they're members.
Yeah.
They have a team on standby in case they get an engine failure in Europe, because it doesn't happen. They'll fly them out and bring the engine home that day. And
Really?
investigate why the hell, because it doesn't happen. It does not compute. That shouldn't happen. What have we done? Even it could be because the customer's putting oil in it. You take some of the other manufacturers, they'll try, because they've got such inherent design faults in the cars, they'll try and wriggle out of them because of the cost. So so if you want safe, Japanese, BMW, both car and bike had backup. Ducati, if you ask me for my car hat on anything Italian, I'm running because of the electrics, but that's the historical thing.
Yeah. Well,
Sure
I've got two good mates who've owned Ducatis within the last 5 years, and both had terrible customer service. However, last year when I had the V4 Multistrada on loan, I put a thing out on my socials asking for people who've actually owned Ducatis, so who owned them now, so within the last couple of years, and I wanted their experience of Ducati ownership, what's customer care. And I'll tell you, I think out of about a couple of hundred replies I got, I think there was one negative. They were all positive, bar that one.
In theory, and I can't speak because I've never bought or run one, they should be adopting the Audi values.
Yeah.
Because of the parent. And if they have, they'll be in line with the BMW, which is, yes, we'll make mistakes, things will go wrong, but we'll fix them. You'll not be inconvenienced. And that, if you think about your journey, I've experienced it on my GS and my RT a few times. It's not going wrong, it's what happens when it goes wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what matters, yeah.
I remember going back, this must be 40 years. Well, quality was only just starting to be a thing, and Volvo were the quality people. And I remember going to a Ford conference, and Volvo had got a problem. Because their cars didn't go wrong, the customers just thought that was the norm.
Mm.
Didn't think it was good. They just thought it was as it should be.
Right.
You actually got better customer satisfaction reviews if you had a problem and fixed it.
Yeah.
So almost the ideal customer satisfaction profile is one problem, fix it.
Mm.
If it doesn't go wrong, what's the customer judging? But the Japanese changed the landscape forever. Their quality control, their processes, their way of thinking is. So if reliability is number one issue, car or bike, Japanese.
Well, that goes nicely into Paul's question. Well, we covered how you ended up into racing and a racing team, but he says, why the Toyota brand?
Through Christian and Amy. So what basically happened was I was still racing, if you like, full-time, full season in 2015, won the championship. And as it happened, we won the championship in Brno in the Czech Republic. But the same day, the touring car side of the business, Speedworks, it was the final round at Brands Hatch. We were in a 12-hour race, finished at midnight. We literally caught a plane at 3 o'clock, and we all went to Brands Hatch to celebrate us winning the championship, the endurance championship, and we got second place as a team at Brands. And I got to the stage of my racing career. I did some races in 16, but I started to get frustrated with it because I hadn't got the time to practice. And as I've perhaps alluded to, I hate losing. But for me to give to drive at the level I can, I needed time, and I hadn't got time. I was time poor. So I got to the stage I was turning up at tracks Friday morning. I might have just flown in from China or Dubai or some godforsaken place, knackered, jet lagged, trying to drive the car, head not in it, too tired to practice properly, and I stopped enjoying it because I knew I wasn't performing at my. But I couldn't cure the time problem. But Christian and Amy, who'd become very good friends, who owned Speedworks by that stage, we'd talk, we'd have dinner about how to grow the team, where to take it. And I put a bit of money in and then started to look at it and get involved. And to be fair, I said up to 2020, I was still working. I said, look, I'll support you. We can have dinner. I'll come to as many race meetings as I can, but I can't guarantee you, but I'm still working. And they started to grow the team. They took extra cars on, and literally they started to drown because they tried to do it all themselves.
Yeah.
So in 2020, when I finally stopped doing my old job, or when the end of COVID, I said, right, let me take some of the workload on. So we split it up. So race weekends, pretty much now I'm front of house. If you come as a guest, it'll be me you bump into around the garages. Christian focuses on the engineering because that's his strength. I haven't got it. And Amy, bless her, keeps us both organised. She's trying to keep 100 guests happy and make sure we're all in the right place, hotels booked and all the rest of it. So it works. So I can't stand the thought of, people said to me, Johnny, go and play golf. Not every day I can. No, that would... Don't get me wrong, I love a game of golf and I love my mates to play golf with. But the idea of doing that 300 days a year just did my head in.
Yeah.
So this satisfies that goal orientated. Let's go win the touring car championship. Bit of me.
But have I missed something there then? But why specifically the Toyota brand in racing?
Sorry.
Was it
the Toyota brand? That's down to Christian. That's down to Christian Amy. They took a punt in 2013. I think it was. The regulations changed. The current regulations. And it's the first car they built. They built a car the year before to demonstrate to everybody what the regulations would look like. And they were allowed to run it for a couple of races, just as demonstration runs. And if Christian's honest, he built it. He bought a knackered taxi and turned it into a touring car.
Wow.
which got them going, got them into touring cars. So no Toyota backing whatsoever. He just picked the Avensis because he thought it would make a good touring car. And it subsequently turned out he was right.
Jesus.
So went through a couple of drivers that weren't, due respect to them, they got the team going. They had the funds to come and do it, but they were never going to be winners. And they knew that. They just wanted to be on the grid.
Yeah.
And then it was about 15 we got serious and took Tom Ingram on, who ended up being champion. And then Toyota started to notice us. And then they said they wanted to promote Corolla. We were running Avensis. So that's where the relationship came from. It's Christian Amy's hard work and belief. So It's just a total punt.
Gotcha. Paul also says at the end, oh, sorry, mate, apologies. Go on.
And that's where the relationship developed, which is great. I'm very privileged. I've been around the factory at Derby, and watching how they build the cars incredible.
Yeah, I bet it is actually how you said about the Japanese processes and everything. It must be quite an impressive thing to see the factory line, the production line of these bikes.
Well, this was cars, but I mean their level of
cars.
Their quality control is incredible, and that's all they're about. I mean, to give you an example, this is a funny one. We normally do a season launch up there, so we'll take the new drivers up, do it at the factory because the workers love having us around, taking the race car up. They get to see it. We spend the day there with them. And we had a cheeky lad a few years ago called Ricky Collard. Brilliant driver, pain in the ass to manage. If you turn around, he's like a naughty 3-year-old. He's up to some mischief.
Mm-hmm.
So he thought it would be funny to jump in the boot of one of the cars on the production line while it's going down the line.
Oh, blimey.
That set off so many alarm bells, ended up on the European director's desk because they had to take. They had to rework it. They would not sign it off.
How do you mean? Like they wouldn't
because
sign what off?
It possibly could contaminate it, move something. That car came off the line and had to be what they call reworked.
No way. Oops.
Yep.
Wow.
That's their attention to detail.
Yeah. Oof. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Paul's got a little bit at the end. He said, thanks for looking after me. Would love to come back. I had a fantastic day. It was an eye-opener as to what happens in the garage to get the cars out. So I'm assuming he came down onto the...
Yeah, Paul and I had a chat after the Northumberland meet.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, we were desperate. We were always short of truck drivers because obviously we've got to take the transporters to the circuit. So I said, look, come down, see if it's some interest here. But basically, our truckies do tyres for the weekends. So they'll drive the truck to the circuit, but they generally will look after the tyres, which is a big, big job. Because after every time they run, they scrape them and change them where we're running wets. We have different compounds. So Paul turns up to watch. Well, we don't do watching.
Get your hands dirty.
And because a lot of our truckies are ex-forces, there's a link there. So I turned around. The next thing, Paul's scraping tyres.
Nice.
So
he's a good boy.
He loved it.
Yeah, he's a good lad, Paul. Good lad.
Yeah.
Speaking of ex-forces, the next one is Peaky. Brian, Peaky Biker. Hey up, all. Hope you're both well. So, John is an absolute legend and can firmly say he's a friend now. My question, if money was no object, what car would you wish you would have kept throughout the years of racing?
That's easy. The Mistress. My Aston Martin V8S.
Oh, yeah.
GT4.
Yeah.
The little kid in me, the first time I drove that at Donington, I'm driving an Aston Martin, really? Race car. This is the kid that watched Mansell, and you never thought I'd get, come from, never, Jesus, that car, and it was like a Mistress because when it ran well, it was beautiful. or it could also be a bitch.
And we'll draw a discreet veil under that
Yes.
one. Question 2. What car have you owned that is worth the most amount of money nowadays?
Race car, it would probably be, as a team, we bought an LMP3 car, which was a Le Mans prototype.
Oh, blimey.
There's 3 classes, the big ones that go and win it. And then you have class 2 and class 3. We bought a feeder, which is the class 3, but it's still a full aero car. So that technically that'd be about, although a touring car to build from scratch, which is about $250,000 to $300,000, to be at the same as a road car. Probably I had a DBS V12.
Road car. Wow. Wow.
In fact, technically, if I'm honest, I've still got it. I'm about to sell it because I can't drive it anymore. Will you somebody please tell me where I can go drive that car?
Yeah.
It's no good on track. It's too soft. So if I was going to go and do a track day, I wouldn't buy a road car. You'd buy a track car, race car. And these days, somebody tell me where you can take a 560 horsepower V12 and let it go. I used to do, but not now. You're going to get cameraed, a member of the public with a dash cam.
Yeah.
You're going to be
same on the bikes now, isn't it? Same on the bikes. It's just like, I don't see the point in, like 210 brake blooming bikes now. Obviously, it's great to have them. It's great to ride them, but you can't get anywhere near what they're capable of. That's why I like the tractor, like adventure bikes, just V-twins or something like that. All the fun is low down. So I'm quite happy with that. And they'll still do good speeds, but you're not doing 160, 180 mile an hour unless we'll not get into that. But yeah.
No, and don't get me wrong, I've come from an era, I'm probably old enough, that in the old days we did. Yeah, you could get a car and you could max it, because in those days, the game with the police, bless it, was if you could see them, they get you. If you couldn't see them, they weren't there. Because there was no cameras, there was no mobile speed traps. It was a game of, and we all drove like bloody lunatics, but there's a lot less traffic on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I frightened myself by how fast I used to drive on the road in the old days. I wouldn't do it. And track days and racing stopped that. I've had a big hit. I've been off fast and gone in the wall. And then you realise, if I'd done that on the street, I'd be dead.
Yeah,
I did it on a circuit where there was tyre barriers and also how quick it happens. Because when we're young, I think it's more when we're young, you don't think it's ever going to happen till it does. And when I've done it racing, and how quick a car moves, or a bike, when it goes, you ain't if it's proper, you ain't catching. I don't care who you are, and then on the road you're now dead. The speeds I used to travel. So the Aston, bless it, I love it. But it's so frustrating to drive now because I can't open it up. I get more enjoyment out of the bikes for the reason you said.
Yeah,
getting 60, 70. Which is all we do on obviously the clan rides.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Next question. Last question from Peaky. He says, Shipyard or Guinness?
Oh, shit, yeah. Him and his Guinness. There's no Guinness left when he's been in the pub.
He does sup it, doesn't he? Jesus.
And to be fair, give me a choice. It's 2 or 3 pints of Shipyard, then I'm on the whiskey.
Yeah, Brian does sup the old Guinness, doesn't he? He just inhales it, I think.
Although he's
Cheers for that one,
Peaky. He's on to day 40 odd now.
Oh yeah, of course he is. He's not. He's doing. Is it the 100 days? Is that what he's doing?
So
yeah.
If he comes on the clan meet, he'll be dry.
Good. We'll make sure you are, Peaky. Definitely. Good lad. Keep it up, mate. Keep it up. Next one, David McCracken. How you doing, David? Evening each. I've had the pleasure of John's company over a fairly drunken KFC recently, and have to say I had no idea I was sitting across from such an interesting person. You've lived a varied and interesting life so far. What challenge is next for you? You must have something in the pipeline.
2, racing-wise, to win the Touring Car Championship.
We zoomed in on you there, right at the right time.
This camera I've got's got flipping finger controls, which I haven't learned yet.
You can't turn them off.
Yeah, keep doing things to it that's flipping setting it off. All for effect, you know. Bike-wise, I've got a yen to go and just bugger off into Europe and just keep going. And just actually set off. I'd love to do a 2 months see where I go.
Oh, we're going to turn the tables here, John. So, why don't you? What's stopping you?
In the summer, I can't do it because of racing.
Mm-hmm.
I have it almost at the back of my mind. I'll share this now, and Peaky's going to go nuts. Peaky mentioned the other day that one of his goals is to do next year 20 countries in 20 days.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that might be a bit of a good crack, that. And because of his background, I work with Mission Motorsport when we're racing. Mm-hmm. We scrap grid girls, and we have ex-service personnel on the grid, which I'm very proud of. And I think there's probably a link there with Peaky and to do something. So
I could see him in some hot pants, to be honest.
No, I don't want him on the grid, for Christ's sake, no. But doing 20 countries in 20 days around Europe, but to link it up to something like supporting the military and making it, doing something around military, visiting military significant places in those countries, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It'll happen.
Sounds like you need to chat with Peaky at the next meet.
I might be seeing him before the next meet, if not.
There we go. Okay, yeah. All received. Davey also says, has there ever been an opportunity or chance that later in life you regretted not taking? That's a good question.
No, because I don't do regret.
Good answer. Me too.
I don't. The past is the past. Learn from it. Don't repeat it. But I don't worry about it. I can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't change what I said 60 seconds ago. Never mind what I did a year, 2 years. So no, it is what it is. Learn from it.
Yeah,
because I haven't got the ability to go, let's replay and do that again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can't change anything about the past, can you? Or as you said, all you can do is learn from it. Maybe make amends if they're needed, or something.
I massively agree with that. As you mature, mm-hmm. there's things I've done in the past that I wish I'd done. The me of today would have done differently. And I've had the chance a couple of times to go back and we can't fix it, but to apologise for it or say things to that particular person. But I was wrong. Mm. But I can't change what I've done. So no, I don't ever look back. I've lived a blessed life. If you'd have told me when I left school at 16, but the headmaster going, "Don't come back," my mother going, "You better go and get a job." And I think the wake-up moment for me was we started our journey with a business to go into Europe. I didn't know where it was going to go. Mm. Did the whole of the Middle East, And then I ended up getting an opportunity to do business in Russia. Now, bear in mind, when I was growing up, the war was still up. Russia was the enemy. If we were ever going to go to war, it was the Ruskies. And all of a sudden, and I stood there that night, I can never forget it. I was Russia for 3 or 4 days trying to do some business with a Jag Land Rover, and B, one of the Russian insurers would talk to us. And I got given a guided tour round the underground, which is incredible. It's like a museum.
It is. It's stunning, isn't it?
It's stunning. Up to Red Square. And I am stood in the snow. I could almost touch the Kremlin.
Uh-huh.
And that was Jesus. That was if you'd have said to a 16-year-old self one day, I've been doing business in Russia and stood outside the Kremlin.
Yeah.
So I've been so blessed, so lucky. I've got my health. I have 2 beautiful daughters, 5 beautiful grandkids, and I've done so. You can't have regrets.
Yeah. You mentioned the Moscow Underground. Have you ever heard the story behind that? Why it is the way it is?
No.
As in like the layout and stuff? Right. It wasn't Lenin. Who's the...
Stalin.
It's a Russian... Stalin. So... The engineers have they're designing the underground for Moscow, and Stalin obviously has a fair reputation. So the engineers have come in and they've laid the plans out on the table for him to look at. And allegedly, he's had a look at them. He's had a drink of his coffee or whatever it was, and then he just put the coffee down on the map and walked out. So obviously everyone's now hitting it. And when they moved, that's right, he put the cup down and then he picked the cup up and he walked out. And when the engineers looked, there's just like a perfect brown circle on the underground. And so they added that perfect circle, which is, it's like the London tube map where you have brown line, you've got a blue line, that. Well, they have a circular route all the way around Moscow, which is brown. And allegedly it's because of that.
But have you seen the architecture, Bruce?
Oh, it's stunning. Yeah, it's beautiful. Big crystal chandeliers and
incredible workmanship. It's just and lovely, as in most countries, as you've experienced on your trip. Lovely people, most of them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I did get introduced to the other element. Let's have some vodka in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Breakfast.
Everything's done through vodka over there. Yeah. Absolutely. It's that sort. It's a very macho, masculine country. It's still orientated that way, isn't it? And the guys are like, we'll have some vodka. It's a lot of bravado and that sort of stuff that's there for sure. Yeah. But I really liked Russia. I loved it. It. Great place.
Can we have a pee break for 2 minutes?
Of course. Yes. No problems.
Then we'll get back to the question.
See you shortly. There's only about 3 questions to go. Right, let's get back to it. Cheers for that one, Davey. Next one, Andy. Evening, gents. Hope this finds you well. First question. What are your thoughts on the positives and negatives of controlled racing series, i.e. technology, money, etc.?
Well, we run in probably one of the most controlled series in the country, and you have to accept as a team going in, you can't buy a win. What I mean by that is every year we send our engines off. They're measured. And if we have got them going too fast, they'll turn the boost down to equalise the racing. So we're all running about the same, between 370 and 400 horsepower. And the idea is to keep the cost down, to stop somebody walking in and buying the championship.
Yeah.
But equally, they can adjust that after anytime they like during the season. If they think you've sneaked an advantage and you've hidden something, they can turn you down. The whole system, we work on a system of, was hybrid boost. This year it's push to pass on a button. And how many seconds you get is reduced the farther you are up the championship.
Okay, explain that to me. You've lost
So
me a wee bit there.
So if you're leading the championship and you get to qualifying, so first race of the season is Donington. We all start the same. By the time we finish the 3 races at Donington, there'll be a leader of the championship.
Mm-hmm.
When he gets to Brands Hatch, we get to qualifying. Instead of having 15 seconds or 13 seconds, whatever they give us for that lap, the leader will have 1 second to boost. That's 60 horsepower he's missing.
So, all right. So they limit how long you can be on boost for.
Yep.
Right. I didn't realise that. Okay.
So it's not, you haven't got unlimited. So you get so many seconds depending on where you are in the championship for qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
Then after the first race, if you win the first race out of 3, you get that handicap for the second race. And if you win the second race, you get the handicap for the third race. So the guy 7 cars behind you has got an extra 60 horsepower for up to 15 seconds a lap.
Jeez.
So what it means is the racing over a year, you get to Brands Hatch and you still don't know who's going to be champion. And it's organised. You have to accept going in, and Alan Gow, who organised the championship, is like God. You don't argue with him. I can't remember a season since I've been involved that it hasn't gone down to Brands Hatch before we know who the winner is.
Mm. So it just makes it more exciting for everybody involved then, doesn't it? Spectators, team members, everyone. Yeah,
that's why the fans love it, because it's door-to-door action. You know, I've never come back from a weekend without the cars looking like they've been in a demolition derby. Some of the drivers are better than others. Some are lousy. But there's always damage. I mean, these lads drive to the limit of, for example, I've got them banned, thank God. It cost us 30 grand last year on one hit. Tyre stacks, which said the circuits put them there to stop the lads cutting the corner.
Mm-hmm.
What the top pros realise is if you touch the tyre stack, it's quicker than not touching it. So invariably, what would happen in qualifying, I'd see the cars come back, first of all, with a bit of rubber on the front wing, where they've just nudged it. By the end of qualifying, the whole wing is covered in it, and if they've got it wrong, the wing mirror's missing. And probably the front wing, because they've slightly got it 2 inches wrong instead of an inch wrong.
Yeah,
that's the level they're driving to. But you just have to accept it's part of the challenge of the championship. You know they're going to do it. You just try and work to keep the car fast. It's not about winning every race. It's about finishing in 3rd or 4th every race with winning the championship.
Tactics,
You just have to accept that's the way the championship is good. For the teams, we hate it because pure racers, you want to build the fastest car, but it would be very boring for the public. You've seen it some years in F1. Mercedes, during their 7 years dominance, they started to lose the audience.
Yeah.
You have to applaud technically the job Merck did, or Red Bull did the last 3 years, but it makes it boring for the public. And we're about entertainment. That's what keeps the sponsors happy. That's what keeps ITV filming us. So, yes, otherwise it becomes who's got the biggest budget, and the biggest budget wins. Formula One in the old days was the best example. You know, if you've got a £500 million budget compared with Williams' 150 million, they're never going to win. It ultimately becomes boring.
Yeah.
As a racer, I appreciate the skill, but it's not. We're in the entertainment business, because without the fans, without the sponsors, we don't exist.
Yeah.
So,
you
know, whether it be in, I think there's a danger in MotoGP that people are going to get a bit fed up with the Ducati. Now, this year, no, because they happen to have the two of the 3 fastest riders in the same team, so there should be some fireworks, which will keep us all entertained. But if they hadn't got that, and one of the riders was just buggering off and walking it, the audience would drop. So you have to allow people to compete and keep the budget sensible. So I don't like it as a pure racer, but because, whether it be F1 or us, we're in the entertainment business. And the fans love it when the racing's close. And they see a bit of argy-bargy.
Yeah, exactly. Get you for that. Right, next one. Second question from Andy. In BSB, the series and the majority of the tracks are within one ownership. Is there a similar picture in the four-wheeled world?
So that again.
He says, in BSB, the series and the majority of the tracks are within one ownership. So that's, blimey.
Jonathan Palmer.
Yeah. Is there a similar picture in the four-wheel world?
We race on the same tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So Alan Gow, who leads our series, he will negotiate which tracks we go to. Normally, he's the first to get the calendar out. So we knew 2025's calendar by July, I think, last year. And it's pretty much Jonathan Palmer, MSV.
MSV, that's it. I couldn't remember that.
So they own Snetterton, Alton, Donington, and Brands Hatch.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to race there. They're the tracks, the iconic tracks. They've also got the capacity to take. We'll have 40,000 people there every weekend if the weather's nice. And we take a lot of. We're turning up with 3 Arctics, plus 4 Arctics, plus Capes. So we need a lot of space. Somewhere like Anglesey, which I'd love to race at Anglesey. I don't know if you've ever been.
I've never done Anglesey, no.
Oh, what a circuit. It's literally, if you go off too far, you're swimming.
Yeah.
It's that close to the sea. It's a stunning
place. Well, people refer to it as like the British Phillip Island, don't they?
Yeah, it is a little bit. And it's got if they want to do it, they've got a corkscrew bit on the short circuit. It'd be lovely, but they couldn't accommodate us. Because when you take the support series, we've got Porsches racing, we've got Ginettas, Juniors, we need a lot of space. So we're limited to the same circuits as BSB is for the same reason. BSB needs a lot of space. They need to be able to get the crowds in. So we all work roughly from the same circuits. So the answer to the question is, it's just the fact of life.
Mm-hmm.
Unless we go abroad, which then the fans couldn't follow it, which gets too expensive. We're a British-based series.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's just business, isn't it? It's just business. Andy's got a last one. He says, finally, asking for a friend, Bruce, if I was looking for investment in a USA motorcycle touring, what would be the most difficult challenge for a UK-based company? Feel free to ignore. Cheers, Andy. Is that you tell me you want to go on a tour to America? So what I can say, go on.
No, go on. You answer your bit first.
Don't know about America for next year, for 2026, but we are almost ready to put out an Australia tour. So for sort of January, February 2026, there may well be an Australia tour. Anyway, sorry, go.
To answer your question for setting up a company over there, for all the places in the world I look to trade, I did get offered or asked to go and look at a big piece of business in the States. And at the time, my underwriter, my insurance company was AXA. They're the second largest insurer in the world. So I rang the director. He said, "Look, John, I want to go to the States, do something." He said, "John, no." I went, "What do you mean, no? I don't do no. You know I don't do no." He went, "We cannot write business in America." Well, why not? He said, "John, we failed. We tried, we failed. But I do know somebody you go and talk to." And it was a company called Boston, Liberty Mutual, based in Boston. So I get my arse on a plane, go over to Boston, beautiful place. Go and have dinner with the board, explain what I wanted. They went, "Yeah, I'd love to work with you, John. Let's get it on." And they gave me a guided tour around the business while I was there. I went down to this floor, and as far as I can see, there's chicken nuts, the little desks, petition.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
People with headphones on a phone. I went, what? He said, "There's 800 people on this floor. Guess what they do?" I said, what? He said, every single one is a qualified lawyer.
800.
800. He said, John, everything we do, every claim, we get sued by somebody about something. That's the culture in America.
Wow.
And the more I dug into it, even at the manufacturer level, it was a manufacturer I was talking to, but in the warranty program, they said, John, the problem is here, somebody gets a fault on the car, there'll be nothing to do with you, not even on the warranty. But if they sue us, you'll end up in court because you're a connected party.
Wow.
So it's a culture. So to answer the question, I'd love to go and tour in the States, and I'll pay me money to an American company. I ain't setting one up because you have to understand the litigious nature of their infrastructure. If you're an American company, you know about it. Your insurers will know about it. You'll gear up for it. Somebody from Europe, you've got to do your homework. There's 50 states, and from my insurance hat on, 40 odd different sets of rules. You had to be licensed in every state. It was a nightmare.
Blimey.
It was doable with the right partner, but somebody doing what I normally do, which is rock up, so let's go. Nah. So I'd love to go to the States, chicken strips, get it organised, but you probably need to team up with an American partner.
For insurance and stuff, yeah. Interesting. Well, yeah, we'll need to look at that.
Unless you've got very big balls, Mr. Smart.
Well, yeah. I'm not even going there.
Yeah.
Cheers, Andy. Thank you very much for your questions, mate. Next one, John Powell. Evening, both. Evening, John. John, it's been good to meet and catch up with you at a couple of the clan rides. If all flights and ferries are cancelled and you are forced to travel to Portugal by road, do you take a car or bike? And which car or bike do you take?
I've done it on both. It would be down to how much time I've got. Because I've done it in less than 2 days. And if I had that was the time scale, it'd be a car. And that would be the most comfortable car I've ever done it in is a Range Rover.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, more than capable of doing over 100 mile an hour all the way, which is
off a public road, obviously.
Yes, obviously on the dirt tracks in Spain.
That's it.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've done it in today. Practically, it would be my X7, which is I call my granddad car, so I get my 5 grandkids in the back. But through choice, it'd be a bike every single time. I've done it twice. I've done it on my first bike. In fact, my first bike after I passed my test, not my first bike.
You've done it again. You've done that, and we've just cropped in on you,
haven't we? Which was a GSA, and I love.
GSA was your first bike?
Oh, this Muppet. So, not my first bike. My first bike ever, this is embarrassing, when I was 16, Bruce, you're not old enough, was a push, step-through, pedal-driven moped.
Awesome. Are they the ones you see in the continent?
Literally, a step-through frame.
Yeah.
With pedals on it. 30 mile an hour, flat out. I loved it. Yeah. Freedom. Didn't have to get the bus, didn't have to ring anybody, just go. Then I had my dad's Honda C90 when I started work to get to work and back. 3 years, clock a shift. You could get it to wheelie, though.
Allegedly.
Throttle wide open. But that wasn't cool. And then because I was skint, I bought a Suzuki B120Y. Horrible bike. 2-stroke. Looked like a bag of shit. Then a Honda CB100N. and then a 250 Super Dream before the test. And then I got into the car trade, and the problem, I never took my test. Bollocks. Stupid bugger. Never took it.
Yeah.
Got into cars. Was very lucky through the car trade to drive lots of very fast cars, RS Cosworths, the big 500. But here's the weird thing. When I started my business in 2003, one of my biggest customers was Harley Davidson. And every year I fly across to the States and to their dealer conference, the worldwide dealer conference, which is incredible. And every year they're all going to me, John, have you passed your test yet? I'm going, I was too busy. I kept doing my CBT, but couldn't find the time to go and do a day here, a day there to pass the part 2. So never did it. Roll on to 2020. Sold the business, and a very dear friend of mine who was in Portugal, now back in the UK, I do a lot of biking with, has got a GS 1250. One of the lads that worked for me had a GSA. And they go, John, will you get your my license? Look, I forget 5 days somewhere. Might. And then I was in Portugal, drunk one night, and Simon said, are you going to get your bike license? Well, look, I need to get round to it. He said, you do realise you can ride a 125 in Portugal on your car licence? No L plates. I went, pardon? He went, you can ride a 125 in Portugal on your car licence. I said, no, you can't. In UK, you have to go into CBT. He said, Portugal's different. Morning after, with hangover, I'm on the website. Yes, you can ride a 125. Just go and buy one. So that afternoon, Muppet here, straight into the local bike shop. I want the biggest physically thing you can sell me with a 125, some Chinese adventure-looking bike with plastic tyres. I'm off. I loved it. That got me the bug.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, I'm sat there one day and looked up training. And literally at the time I was living in Coventry. And at Mallory Park, there's a company that does 5 days intensive, test guaranteed at the end of it.
Yeah.
If you fail, retest. I thought, ooh, now I could do that. That's because it was the spread out bit that got me.
Yeah.
You know, 1 week. But obviously in the COVID, they were shut. But I subscribed to their website. I thought, and then literally as COVID came to the end, May 21, was it? Or April 21, I got an email, we're open next week. So dink, booked myself on because it was only 15, 20 minutes from the house. And they ran a great system. First 2 days were on the circuit, but you could ride any bike. So they never even tried to put me in a 125. They put me straight in the big stuff because of my size.
Mm-hmm.
Passed the test. Walked into Wollaston BMW like a muppet. A big mistake. Simon by then had got an RT. A lad that worked for me got a 1250 GSA. So I rode both. I love the GSA. The typical 40-minute test drive, which doesn't show you anything. I totally agree with your point the other day on the GSA. Don't do that. I made a huge mistake because although I'm tall, I've got very short legs.
Okay.
It's 30-inch on a good day.
Blimey, really?
So I get on this GSA on the following Wednesday. I passed my test on the Friday. Puddle it out, get it home because it's straight motorway. Get it in the drive, nearly fell off the damn thing because I can't get the feet down. But first trip after that was to Scarborough to see Simon. Then we took it to Portugal. Loved it, apart from the height. Because I got anywhere near a camber, I was in deep shit. Never dropped it, but I came close.
Yeah.
So I drove it down to Portugal, literally. So I passed my test in May. In October, we went to Portugal. Did the N2. And came back in the March because we tried to get back in the November. We got snowed off. and then did it 12 months later on a Goldwing. So
nice.
Today, if you ask me, I've got an RT and a GSA today. I do it on the GSA every time. I'm going to do it on the RT because me and Simon have said in October, he's got an RT, we'll do it. Because we had such fun the first time, just the two of us, mic'd up, taking the piss out of each other all the way down. You know, that we just get, we ride at a similar pace. We want to stop as often. We just click. It's not difficult. It's not, oh God, he wants to stop type thing. And the banter, you couldn't publicise it, but
that is an issue I have with my tour vids. Yeah. A lot of the time you're like, can't use any of that. This is going to be montage.
And it's sad that we can't, because, you know, I know the lads in the clan not as well as you. There's not a bad one of them in there.
Of course there's not.
We're just from a generation that has a certain sense of humour, and somebody has decided we can't have it anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's knowing your audience, isn't it? Because there are how do you get into this? There are people out there who don't have the same sort of mentality or outlook as I would suggest we do, and
they want to be offended.
But there is that. There's definitely that element. But then there's other people as well, and who just don't. They don't have the same sense of humor. You know, like I think I have quite a dark sense of humor and a perverse sense of humor from. It's not even really the old Bill, because I've been like this my entire life. You know, I have a rugby boy sense of humor. Or a military type of sense. I have that sense of humor, and I tend to be attracted to people with that type of sense of humor. And I'm attracted to situations and roles that naturally attract that type of person. It's why I ended up on the door. It's why I ended up playing rugby. It's why I ended up in the old Bill, you know, and it's why I think our community in the clan does so well, is because there's a lot of people like that. But then there's other people who I can sit down and have a chat with, no problem at all, but they don't see the funny side in death, in misfortune, you know, that I think a lot of us will, or some of us will, just because I suppose it's a coping mechanism, isn't it? You kind of see the funny side in a lot of things.
To me, it's all about intent. You know, words.
Yes, 100%.
And I really struggle with the written word, because I see people, I used to get it all the time. You know, I had one member of staff, to give you an example, tremendously hard working. He'd still be working at 11 and 12 o'clock at night and sending emails out. And the day after, I can almost guarantee I'd get a phone call from somebody going, have you seen this message I've got from him? What are you going to do about it? I said, well, what time did he send it? Well, 11:10. So therefore, it's not a lot of words. He's been fairly blunt. But look at the timestamp. What were you doing at 11:10? You weren't working, were you?
Yeah.
Oh, now, what it signified to me when, with that particular one of stuff got like that, I sit him down and go, you need a break. And I kick him out of the business for 4 or 5 days. He'd been working too much, got tired. And it's not, it wasn't abusive, it was just blunt, but really blunt. But there was a reason for it. And the reason was he was working too long.
Yeah.
I find this cancel culture, this, you know, what was the intent? You know, was somebody having a laugh? You know, we've done it in the clan, we'll do it in motor racing, we've done it, you know, me and Sam will do it, I've done it all my working life. You can have a laugh and a joke. It's about the intent. Did you were having a laugh, or were you intending to really hurt that?
Yeah.
You know, if you want to hurt that person, I'm going to have a problem with you.
Yeah. 100%. Same. Yep.
But if it's banter, let's crack and stop being so precious.
Yeah, same.
But it's so difficult now.
Going back to my first point, there are some things that are said and spoken about in the group rides that, you know, even I'm like, oh yeah, probably shouldn't put that out.
You want to try a motor racing team when it's done a 12 o'clock finish and the bar's shut.
Yeah.
Because we've been working on the cars and they've got back and there's no beer.
Questioning parentage. Yeah, I'm assuming.
At the very least.
yeah.
You know,
sure.
That's part of what we do it for. Yeah.
Of course it is. Of course.
And I suppose I'm lucky now. I'm getting to it. I'm classified as an age at 64 where they're going to go, he's an old fart.
Yeah, you can get away with it now.
I can get away with it.
You can turn it up to 11 now.
Yeah. You know, to me, it's all about how it's said.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's just banter between two mates, regardless of gender, colour, skin, well, I don't give a shit. But it is. Let's have some banter. If I'm saying something I want to hurt you and make you, then yeah, tackle me about it. Mm-hmm. But to now, people are too sensitive.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah, I would agree with you. Last question. Ralph. Hiya, guys. Hope you're both doing well. Bikers often have one or several scars and or tattoos. How about you guys? And what's the story behind it? And are there lessons to be learned in hindsight? Scars and tattoos.
No tats.
Have you not?
No. No. You're not sticking a fucking needle in me for... No, not happening. And I'm very lucky. I've got scars from my old football days, which is playing on council pitches with glass and flipping grit in them.
Yeah. Syringes and all sorts.
Yeah. The closest I've come, which was a lesson learned, big lesson learned, was at Spa. At the time, I had a Lotus Exige 255 Cup, it's a race car for the road legal. And it was Booker track, so it was like the clan, big group of mates. We're all there for 3 days, 3 days at the track, drink a few beers at night. And I knew all the instructors. And we're in what they call the old pits, so you could watch Eau Rouge, which is the famous corner, down the hill and straight up the hill. And it's steep. When you see it in real life, it's far steeper than on the telly. So I'm driving around and I'm enjoying myself and I'm going down there, dab on the brakes, blah, 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 come in the pits and all the instructors are going, why are you having a lift? Something wrong with you? That's flat. Shut up, you lot. I'm quite happy. I'm enjoying myself. I've got 3 days here. I'll get to it. Next thing, an instructor says, John, I'll come round with you. Now, at the time, this is my first year at Spa. I'm thinking, second year at Spa. Instructor, that'll be useful. The good mates, he's offered to do it for nothing. You only have to pay for him, 50 quid an hour or whatever. And he climbs. Mm-hmm. But I didn't know him that well. So we're going down. He says, John, do it in fourth. Bear in mind, I've been doing it in third. Do it in fourth. So the next lap, went fourth, flat, and the car at the bottom, basically at Rouge, you have to go across the curb, immediately turn right, clip the curb, then turn left. It's blind. You can't see a Scooby-Doo. And this car felt a bit squirrely at the top. So I'm going, So we do 2 or 3 laps of this. And then he chirps in my ear, John, fifth. What? And we spent 3 laps going round, and I'm going, no. He's going, John, trust me, it will do it in fifth. Now, here's the mental dilemma. I've got an instructor sat next to me. He's won races, knows what he's talking about. I'm a novice-ish. Mm-hmm. So my logical brain's going, he doesn't want to die. I don't want to die, but he knows what he's talking about. I'm a novice. And he keeps saying yes. My arse is saying no. Now, it's similar on a bike. What's the bit that tells you you're in trouble on a bike? Is your hands or your arse?
Well, it's your arse, yeah. It's the most sensitive part of your body on a bike, isn't it?
But it's the same in a car. To this day, I don't know why. We come down, it's a steep hill. I slam it in fifth. It turns out in hindsight, what I didn't know is he'd never been in a turbo Exige. He'd been in only naturally aspirated exeges. So my speed in fifth was a good 20 mile an hour more than he'd ever thought was possible.
Oh, geez.
So I hit the bottom at north of 120. Turned in, and the car went... Nope.
Carried straight.
We went up the hill backwards, and this is all on video. So you can imagine we're going up backwards and then slowly turning. And it's like time slowed down. I don't know, like when you had your accident under the barrier, but like you suddenly think, I may have gotten away with, as I hit the tyre barrier, flipped it on its roof and came back down again. And they've got me on camera. Being an F1 circuit, they've got cameras everywhere, zooming in. All the Belgians want to know, are you dead?
Yeah.
Because that's deep shit. If you're all right, they're not bothered. But so they zoom in to me, throwing me, fucking want to punch the instructor. And the lesson I learned is trust your ass.
Yeah.
And today, whether it be car or bike, I can watch people far quicker than me. Peaky's a good example. I can't keep up with him. My ass says slow down, I'm slowing down.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if it's road or track.
I've often said that on here. Like I used to ride so much quicker than I do now, but I always felt in control. I always got away with it. You know, if anything happened, I could deal with it. I could stop. I could avoid. I got away with it. Till that time, you can't. You know, and there's well, I had that accident in Germany, but that didn't slow me down. What slowed me down was the really slow one going home from nights when a woman pulled out on me. Just the stereotypical coming along the main road and then a car at the side up ahead at a junction. She just pulled out in front of me. She looked straight at me and pulled straight out. And I remember going for the brakes and I just couldn't stop. And I remember thinking, oh, what's happened here? And that really had an impact on me, and it's just slowed me right down now. I think it's age as well, isn't it? Age, like that self.
I am. As I get older, much I don't want to admit it. I age and racing. You know, when you've gone off at 100, that would be 120 plus. I dread to think if I'd done that on the road, I'd probably be dead. And that taught me a lot. And also it got out of me. You know, that's a safe place to do it. I see the lads, you know, sometimes I'm very fortunate now. I live near the Trough Bowland or the Lake District.
Yeah.
And some of the days you go out, and the sports spag lads are out and they're coming past me. And I don't mind speed at all. But if there's some idiot in a car on the wrong side of the road, somebody crossing the road, a pothole in the wrong place, you're dead. You ain't. Get on the track. Go. That cured me. Track day slowed me down the road. That's the appropriate place. I'm not against speed. I love it. You know, I've driven race cars that are over 170 miles an hour. I've driven on the autobahn at over 2. I love speed. Speed doesn't give me a buzz, funny enough. The first thing I did, obviously, on the GSA was to see what it did. But it's the technique of the cornering. And I know I'm not an expert. Cars, I'm far quicker at. Because I haven't got... I did the rapid trading that you did.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn. And the biggest problem I've got, I still got it today, because of my racing, if I'm approaching a right-hand bend, guess where I want to be?
Yeah, you're taking the racing line.
I want to be... and gee, I'm still... At a certain pace, I'm okay with it. If the pace gets upped to quick, my quick brain split, and I want to be doing the apex rather than where I should be, which is on the left-hand side and turning in late. And I still struggle with that to this day. And the rapid guys taught me that. And I have to work on that every time I go out. And then you're right. Sorry. Occasionally the group rides that I go on with certain people that get a bit quick, that's my biggest fault. He's not
positioning. All right. Yeah. Yeah, it's just sort of ingrained into me now. So I just ride. I just ride the way I was taught. I'm not really fussed if it's quick or not anymore. It's just I enjoy it. So, and I kind of take the viewpoint on it now that it doesn't look good if I crash. It doesn't look good. B, on my tours, I can't crash because people have paid money to come away with me, so you've got a responsibility there. And then when I do the clan rides and stuff, you just think if I you're going to look a right fanny, aren't you? You're going to be a right twat.
We're going to have
if you
some fun in the
crash.
bar.
Oh yeah, of course. But it's like, I just think, no, I can't do that. You can't do that. You've got to respond. I feel like I've got a little bit of responsibility, especially when I'm on camera. I want to try and, I'm no Nigel. I'm not like an IAM or hello, this is what you're doing. But I'd like to think I make progress, but I know that I'm safe. You wouldn't think that when you look at some of the comments from some of these Nigels, like they seem to think I'm fucking reckless, but that's a load of bollocks. But I kind of, I'm aware that some people will watch, some people will criticize when they watch, and there'll be other people that will go, "Oh, I don't do that. Maybe I should do that." Like road positioning and all this sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, to be fair, when you watch, you did when you've done some of your videos, you do the commentary about road position and stuff, which is obviously because you've been trained by, and be the rapid stuff. The one thing that gobsmacked me when I did I've done 2 days with rapid, their ability to read the road a mile in advance. That was what shocked me about their awareness of every. A car that's parked up 3/4 of a mile away, has it got somebody in it? Is it coming out? Is it this? That was the eye opener.
Yeah.
Their ability to of hazard awareness, and you do it. You'll talk about
that's the old Bill. It's what you're taught in the old Bill,
and quite right. And I'm not. I happily admit I'm not at that level. I couldn't do the commentary like the rapid lads do.
You could. On it. Yeah, you could.
I'm working on it because I'm aware of it. I still, you default to subconscious again. I'm having to consciously go, which sort of slows me, stay left.
Yeah.
Don't cut. Because my racing brain, I spent a long time going apex.
Yeah.
And that's part of the joy of it. I love the experience. I just, thankfully, I'm old enough to go, if I recognize somebody's quicker than me, let them go.
Yeah.
My old me would have been like, bollocks to it.
Yeah, but it's knowledge, experience. I'd like to say maturity, but maybe not that. There's like a self. What is the term? What's the expression? Where you want to keep yourself alive.
Preservation.
That's it. Self-preservation. That gets turned right up as you get older, doesn't it? Because I remember being, as a kid, I was very risk averse. I wasn't one of these kids that just fuck it, went for it. I was always thinking about if I do this, what's the consequence of that? And I was like that up until I would say in my late teens, and then through my 20s, where I kind of went the other way. I flipped the switch and just went, fuck it, let's just go for it. And then I've found, certainly in my 30s and now into my 40s, and as we're moving through them, I'm very much along the lines of, okay, let's just tone this down a bit now, because things hurt nowadays, and no one wants to smash himself up now.
But also, with you doing particularly chicken strips, you have a different level of responsibility now, haven't you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I'm more aware of that now than ever after, sadly, losing Jeremy last year. It's like there's nothing we could have done about that, but you still feel responsible. That's still, sadly, a reality of what we choose to do, isn't it? When you go out on bikes, it's going to happen at some point. You're going to lose someone at some point.
I am so... Yeah, I am lucky that my two daughters, they've known me all their lives, obviously. I go fucking motor racing at 50. I didn't do my first race till I'm 49, which is not the norm. I'm like, Dad, really? And then, at 61, I've just passed my bike license. And I bought this bloody tank. And to be fair, my youngest daughter, both my son-in-laws are car mad, but particularly the one that's married to my youngest daughter. And he has a full bike license.
Uh-huh.
And John hasn't ridden since he was in his 20s because he had a bad accident and nearly lost his leg, his foot. It was attached the wrong way around at one point.
Oh, Jesus. So
he's been... Now, he's a petrol head. He's crashed one of my road cars, the bugger. So he's a full... And when I passed my bike license, I could see him on Auto Trader looking at bikes. And my daughter said, Dad, don't even start. Dad, he's not riding the bike. I said, look, I will not do anything. I won't encourage him. I said, but you do know he's looking. And she kept going, Dad, don't even start. So I didn't. I had the time, I had the GSA and a Goldwing. And then fair play, she turned around to me 12 months ago. She said, Dad, I'm being unfair on John. He loves it. He wants to do it. I shouldn't stop him. He can ride one of your bikes.
He can ride one of your bikes.
So no, we're sat in Portugal. I'm very lucky. I've got a GT Explorer out there. So I said, "Are you serious? You're going to let him ride?" Well, yeah. He's got to live his life. He's a bit more grown up now. Yeah. It's unfair. I'm being horrible stopping him. Marie, are you sure? I'm like. She went, Dad, I'm sure. 24 hours later, I'd hide him a GSA. And the pair of us are off out for the day around Portugal.
Fantastic.
And
awesome.
I changed the Goldwing for an RT because as a popping out for a ride, the Goldwing was hopeless.
Really?
I loved it. I've done all over Europe on it. I've been down to the Villa on it. I've done Spa on it. Where it was no good, and you will appreciate this after your ride on the 1300, you start to get a bit spirited, shall we say, and you get to a corner, it would not change down. So I am a gear or 2 gears higher than I want to be. So I'd use the blipper.
Mm-hmm.
Mid-corner, you go back up again.
What, even in sport mode?
Sport mode was also... less so, but also it just, if you're out in a country, I mean, a real twisties, it just didn't work. And
I loved it.
If you told me I had to go to Portugal in 2 days, which I've done, I'd do the wing all day, every day. Tell me I'm going one of your tours for a week, round the twist down the Pyrenees, no, GSA.
Mate, I was gobsmacked by the wing when I took the gold wing out.
Incredible.
I had one for a couple of weeks, but it was exactly that. It was the tight country twisties where I thought this thing is going to be horrendous. For me, it was fantastic. I loved it. It was awesome. I loved it. I hated it for the dual carriageways and motorway stuff. I was bored out my tits. But when you put it on the backcountry lanes, I had whacked it in sport mode. It was great fun.
Yeah. I've used the
for
shit
me.
out of it, basically. Yeah,
no, but it's horses for courses, isn't it?
Listen, a beautiful bike, but the weight, when you're doing it every day,
it's like 400 kilograms or something, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
So literally, I've got the RT and a 1250 GSA here now. So John's insured on the GSA because I'm a big unit. We call him Little John because he's a massive.
Nice. Right, dude, mate, that is over. Well, according to my clock, that's over 3.5 hours, but I think we had 5-10 minutes of faff at the start. But yeah, mate, smashed it.
No Facebook or Instagram?
No, I didn't. I didn't put it out on the public ones because I thought there would be quite a few anyway on the client, and there were. So,
Right.
yes, that is us. Is there anything else you want to chat about? Anything you want to cover, plug?
No, this is for you, pal. You know, I'm just talking my bollocks off.
Well, that's what this is about. We like talking bollocks here on Brewtime. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Loved it. I can see many more drunken conversations with you about
Listen,
various
I
things,
sent you that
for sure.
text. This is, cut this down. Off air.
Hang on, well, let's do that. Let's close this, and then we'll have the chat. All right. Okay, then, folks. Well, is there any socials or anything like that? What about the Speedworks? What's Speedworks socials?
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Speedworks. If you want to come along, clan members, give us a shout. We'll sort something out. I'll give you Gary's show if you get there. And I look forward to seeing most of you in March. 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's not long, is it? Bloody hell, we're nearly there. Right, folks, I'll leave all the links for Speedworks down below. Make sure you give them a follow, etc. Right, folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. Keep doing your thing. Keep sharing the podcast as much as you can for me, please, folks. If you can like or rate it on whatever platform you're watching it or listening it on, that's all a massive help. Keep doing your thing. Keep looking after those that you love. Get on out there whenever you can. But most importantly, live your life. Ooh-ha.
Cheers, guys.